going to call the Board of Supervisors to order. May I have a roll call, please, Mr. Hohen?
Supervisor Giomi, Supervisor White, Supervisor Horton, Supervisor Schutte,
Here.
Mayor Bagwell.
Here.
You have your quorum.
Thank you so much. Let's see, I have a pastor that said they were going to fill in this morning. Might not have, because Nick couldn't make it. I'm not seeing it. So why don't we'll just move right along, right? So we will go to our Pledge of Allegiance. Greg, do you want to give us a lead for the pledge? To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. Okay, I now go to opening public comment, and I have Mike Drews listed first.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Board, I just want to comment on item.
Mike, can you turn the mic on?
Mike's on.
Mike, get the mic.
On item 16D, I want to thank Parks and Rec and Open Space for allowing us to comment on this. We brought it to the Historic Resources Commission. All of our comments have been integrated into the document. As president of Friends of Silver Saddle Ranch, I brought it to our board. They support everything in that revision of PA, and I urge you guys to accept it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next on the list, I have Larry Shoemaker.
Hello, thank you for having me. My name is Larry Shoemaker, and I'm a Carson City resident. I'm here because I'm deeply concerned with the board's recent approval of a nearly $250,000 for the flock safety camera expenditures. I believe this was made with minimal public notice and no meaningful community input. By doing so, the board has effectively endorsed the use of a third-party data broker to circumvent the Fourth Amendment protections against unlawful search and seizure. This is not a small policy choice. I have emailed every supervisor and mayor in February. Only one of you has responded to me. Had I known this was on the agenda last week or week before, I would have come here. Supervisor Giomi, you confirmed that the contract runs through June 2027. So what was the urgency in renewing this contract? Nevada has no laws regulated automated license plate readers, no retention limits, no data sharing restrictions, no oversight requirements. This board is the only line of accountability, and right now there is none. Flock's network has been documented surveilling protesters and assisting abortion-related investigations, sometimes without even the knowledge of the local departments. How do you plan to enforce privacy requirements on a private company? Sheriff Bindley at the last meeting cites audits as safeguards, but my February 11th Public Records Act request asking basic questions about the system's use has gone unanswered despite multiple follow-ups. This is a violation of Nevada's statutory timelines. If this system is being used responsibly, why can't residents like myself get basic information? 3 questions for the record. Where are these cameras? Who is the sheriff sharing the data with? And why was this contract renewed without significant community input? I'd like to note that Flock is also expanding into always-on audio surveillance and data broker enrichment. Why was raising serious wiretapping and other civil liberty concerns? I believe Carson City residents are in the dark, but I urge this board to require public reporting before the next renewal phase. Thank you, and thank you for all the city employees. You guys are awesome.
Okay, I don't have anyone else that has signed up for beginning public comment. It's a smiley face. Come on up, Mr. French.
Denny French, Carson City. I'm very pleased to see people here to support the presentations and to also speak their minds about specifics on the agenda. I have two specifics I would like to have taken off the agenda because as I just heard now that I think there's not the I feel that the public really has a need to know a little bit more about the parks and what's being spent and what's where it's coming from. From 11C and 11D relate to park type facilities. One relates to the trailhead at the Korean, and the other Sunset Park. And Sunset Park looks like a great park. I looked at pictures that were from 2 years ago, and I hadn't been able to get there, so I can't say what it's grown into, but it's a nice park. I see that there is a piece of equipment that's been there quite a while, and it's probably worn out its warranty. But to spend the money that they're suggesting, unless they're going to have a shade screen and a restroom, I just can't see it as the amount that most people would be spending to get a new house. And that park is beautiful as it is. It may not be into playground compliance, and that needs to be dealt with. But I'd like to know more about it. It's great that this information was given out today. Also, I'd like to bring up the fact that asphalt at that Korean area will contribute to a heat factor that I don't feel should be. The old asphalt that there has worn down to the point where it's not putting out the heat that a brand new slurry would even cause, or asphalt. I would like mitigation to start with us not putting asphalt out everywhere, because we might be able to buy it for, get a grant or anything. Just don't use it. There are alternatives. And thank you. And I have, real quick, I just want to appreciate Lindsay Boyer and the people from the open space and their presentation. And I see it's here too, but I was really helped by knowing what they shared with me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Do I have any other public comment?
One more thing. Glenn is going to be honored today, and I'm just so appreciative of this presentation. And thank you.
Thank you. Do I have anyone else? Okay, I don't have anyone else, so I will move to agenda item 6A, which is approval of our minutes of April 2nd, 2026. Does any members have any corrections or changes? Seeing none, I'll accept a motion for approval, please.
Move to approve the Carson City Board of Supervisors meeting minutes of April 2nd, 2026. As
I have a
presented.
motion and a second for approval. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect it was unanimous. Okay, I'm going to diverge slightly from the agenda just so that we can have an orderly transition from down on the floor back up to the dais and stuff. So I am going to move agenda item 16B, which is the potential naming for Mr. Lucky. So we're going to do 16B next, and then we'll move into our other presentations on the that we do from the floor. So we will go to item 16B, which is discussion and possible action regarding the naming of Route 395 multi-use path paralleling South Carson Street. And who's going, Greg? Right there.
Yeah.
He's ready. Thank you so much.
Yep. Thank you, Madam Mayor. So Glenn Lucky is really a well-known area resident and kind of a local legend. He's been recognized as an inspiration to our community literally for decades as he rides his various specially designed adaptive tricycles from his home in Indian Hills to downtown Carson City in an effort to overcome the debilitating effects of cerebral palsy. And I included a photo in the staff report, and I think anybody who's been in Carson City for a while would recognize that photo very well. Born in 1952, Lucky was once told that he would not live to adulthood, but with incredible perseverance, and he has logged literally tens of thousands of miles on his adaptive bikes. In 1988, he rode all the way to the White House, covering 3,600 miles in over 100 days to attend events organized by groups supporting cerebral palsy research and the Special Olympics. And that tricycle is now on display at the Nevada State Museum here in Carson City, along with the torch he carried for the upcoming, or for the lead up to the 2002 Winter Olympics. And really, his dedication has earned suggestions from members of the community to name a pathway in his honor, and it seems most appropriate that we would name the South Carson pathway in his honor, because that's where he's most often been seen over the many decades. And so before I turn it over to the board, I just wanted to mention that there have been various suggestions for a name. Mr. Lucky prefers the Glenn Lucky pathway. So I'll let you take it from there.
Thank you so much. Does any members have a question or a comment? Supervisor Shooty?
Well, first of all, I just think this is a tremendous opportunity to honor somebody who really represents the best of community. And quite frankly, Glenn, my guess is you have logged in more miles than many vehicles along that pathway. So I am so thrilled to support this. So congratulations.
Any other member? How about, can we just say ditto? I'm sure each and every one of us up here, I don't know, you just bring joy when we see you riding, right? It's like, there he is out there riding again. So thank you, really thank you for just showing people the way. I guess that's another attribute of that too. So how about any public comment that would like to come up and give us a hooray or whatever?
Denny French, Carson City. I first saw this gentleman when I moved to Carson. He was pedaling along on in your three-wheel bike, towing advertisements. He caught my eye because he was riding a three-wheeler and I can't handle one. So that was amazing in itself. Plus he was riding uphill and I can't handle that either. So he caught my eye. His advertisements caught it later. I started to read. But the deal for me is family-related circumstances has me so pleased to have this honor put on him because of his just being, the fact that he has the challenges, we all have challenges, but that he has really been an inspiration. And I just, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have any other public comment? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to take the privilege of the chair and make the motion. So I move to name the Route 395 multi-use path paralleling South Carson Street between the Stewart Street roundabout and the Old Clear Creek Road as the Glenn Lucky Pathway.
I proudly second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect it was unanimous. Now, if you'd all join me on the floor, we have a presentation, and then we'll do all the other ones. Pile full of them. All right. Oh, thank you. Tell you what, right? For this, we have one for you to commemorate it. And of course, it has to be a road sign, right? So, has to be green. But we're so proud as a board. Do you want to give it to us?
Absolutely.
Thank you. To present you with this, yeah, why don't you, thank you. With this sign for you to remember how much we care about you. So the Glenn Lucky Pathway is pretty cool, huh? And then this is the one we'll actually install.
Right. We have two of these. One will go at the north end and one will go at the south end. And Public Works created these signs and they will install them.
Pretty good job. Yay! Why don't we go to him for a picture? Glenn, we're so proud to do this. Oh. When are the signs, Public Works, when are you gonna put the signs up? Next week. Right? Are you gonna pedal right on by just to see it? Yes. I thought so.
Oh, it would be.
Oh, maybe we can have a contact. That would be super fantastic. Congratulations again. Got it? All right, okay, we'll contact you when they're gonna put it in, okay? Thank you, Glenn. Oops. Okay, let's go stay in order here now. Okay, our next presentation, let me get the right one. Nevada Public Works Week. All right, Darren, are you coming up to get this proclamation? I can't believe another year is. Yeah, I feel like I just did this and I looked back and said, no, it's a year. Yeah, come on up. We like to, Public Works does a lot more than people realize, but come on, we promise not to bite. There's this huge gap here. Come on. It won't make for a good picture. Okay, how about this year's theme? I love it. Rooted in service, powered by community. I thought, woo, that's a good one. They really worked hard on this year, so I like it. Whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of Carson City. And whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals, and I think there's a whole bunch more that aren't here today, but who are operators, technicians, engineers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector, who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, solid waste system, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. Whereas it is in the public interest for the citizens and civic leaders in Carson City to gain knowledge of and maintain an ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. This includes the efforts of the Carson City Public Works Department to provide all fifth grade students a field trip to visit and explore what Public Works does every year. It's pretty cool, right? It's very cool. Whereas Public Works is always operating in the background and it impacts every citizen's daily life. So now, therefore, I, Lori Bagwell, Mayor, do hereby designate the week of May 17th through the 23rd, 2026, as National Public Works Week. I urge all citizens to join me to recognize the substantial contributions they make to protecting our national health, safety, and advancing quality of life for all. So if you see them out and about, many of them kind of have a sign to tell you in the community, right? Roll down your window and just say thank you. I just think it's something simple, and a smile for people goes a long way. So congratulations, and really thank you all for your good work. Did you want to?
I'll never turn down a microphone, Mayor. I'm so proud to be part of this team. Everybody here and the rest of the team that are out working currently. So much great work is going on, much of it in the background every day, every hour, that just helps our city continue to run. So thank you. I'm proud to be here with everybody, and thank you for recognizing us.
Did you get the picture? Yeah, wait till you see. We're going to go from public works to archaeology. Yeah. Perfect. Thank you so much again, you guys, for all that you do. Thank you. Okay, we've got another great one. I'm laughing because I think, wow, we're going from, Public Works, who helps us, keep our toilets operating appropriately. And now we're going to go to the Historic Preservation and Archaeological Awareness Month. Are you coming up, Mike? Who else is, Hope's team? You got this. They're here. That's next. First this. I have an order, it kind of like tells me what to do. I try to stick to it. Yeah, there you go. So whereas historic preservation and archaeological awareness are effective tools for managing growth and sustainable development, revitalizing neighborhoods, fostering local pride, and maintaining community character while enhancing livability. I will say, on just a personal note on the fostering local pride, you guys started the the scavenger hunt. Well, I have a neighborhood that thinks that's like the highlight of their year, and they were already upset that they only had 9 of them. And I'm like, wow, how many hours did that take you? 1. I said, well, try harder. Anyway, it's really, it really does foster local pride. Whereas historic preservation and archaeological awareness are relevant for communities across the nation, both urban and rural, and for Americans of all ages, all walks of life, and all ethnic backgrounds. And whereas it is important to celebrate the role of history in our lives and the contributions made by dedicated individuals in helping to preserve the tangible aspects of the heritage that has shaped us as people. Whereas May, in honor of Historic Preservation and Archaeological Awareness Month, Carson City residents participate in the Historic Resource Scavenger Hunt, and Carson City annually recognizes individuals, projects, or organizations that have contributed to historic preservation in Carson City. Now, therefore, I, Lori Bagwell, Mayor of Carson City, do hereby proclaim May. They get the whole month. We got to talk about Public Works gets a week, so you get a whole month. So it is Historic Preservation and Archaeological Awareness Month, and call upon the people of Carson City to join their fellow citizens in recognizing and participating in this special observance. Right on. And how long have you been helping us on the commission?
I was appointed by Mayor Flanagan
What?
in 1980,
Flammer.
in 1989.
See, I knew it was a long time. He might outlast us all. Really, thank you for all you do, the whole commission. Please spread the word that, we appreciate all of them, and that we hope this gets done. Are you going to talk here, or you're going to wait until we do the awards?
Yeah, I'll just let Darren know that National Historic Archaeological and Historic Preservation Month started in 1973 as Preservation Week.
So you grow
So
with
you
time.
do grow with time, and eventually you will get Public Works Month.
We'll get there when he gets older. I like that. Okay, so as stated in the proclamation, we always have the honor of doing some historic preservation awards, and so it couldn't be any better than in the historic month of May. So we have 2, and so if we could get Darren Berger to come on up, schoolmate. So we are old. Yeah, I know. It's like good. Well, I don't know. It might be good we made it, right? And then I see Resource Concepts. Come on up, and I'll let Drew really talk to him. Is it just you?
Yeah.
They wanna
Come on up.
I see that. Come on up. Get in the pictures. It's what's all the joy.
So if there's a theme to this year's Preservation Awards, it's got to be going above and beyond. Historic preservation doesn't always make economic sense. It's expensive. And people who own properties in the district know how expensive it is. The costs often outweigh any immediate benefit, but they bring a huge value to the community. Both of our awards this year recognize going above and beyond what could be considered economically justified. And in doing so, they really foster the preservation ethic and help to retain the historic character in the community. We can start with the biggest first. In 1906, Dr. Simeon Lee begins construction on a 3,800 square foot house on Minnesota Street in the location of the old Central School. He used salvage materials from that building and built a really beautiful house. I think we all remember that on October 13th in 2022, there was a huge fire on that property. All that remained after the fire was the foundation, the north wall, and the chimney. Oops. Well, it would have been much cheaper to have just built a new building there. Resource Concepts, Bruce Scott, and John McLean, and Jeremy Drew said, no, we're going to rebuild it the way it was previously. Reconstruction took about 3 years. All the employees were stuck in trailers on the school district grounds and in their parking lot. And I just want to say to the founders, principals, and employees of Resource Concepts, in recognition of your continued support for historic preservation and your efforts to sacrifice in restoring the Dr. Simeon Lee House, we want to present you with this preservation award.
Yeah, just on behalf of RCI and the founders who weren't able to be here today, we have a whole list of thank yous. We're humbled and honored by the award. Obviously, from day one, thank you to the fire department. They saved the rest of our complex. Otherwise, we would have really been in trouble. I know some of the supervisors, some of the staff were on the street the morning of the fire, and they said, whatever you need, we'll be there. And you guys absolutely lived up to your word. To the community, there wasn't a day that went by that we didn't have multiple people passing by, kind of cheering us on, and you can't imagine what that means to us as a company. And then really, I know there was 3 names on the proclamation or the discussion today, but it took our whole staff in addition to the community. And so this is really a company award. We started calling it RCI Strong or RCI Tough. Just the amount of perseverance, 2/3 of companies fail when they go through a catastrophic event like that. And we were working while the smoke was still settling, and we never stopped serving our clients and our community. And when you add place and you add people, I think that's community, and we're sure proud to be part of it. So thank you very much.
We hope that you proudly display this, and in 50 years, it will be historic.
Absolutely.
There you go. That was pretty good, huh? Okay, and we have another award winner.
Darren Berger was one of Art Hannafin's proteges. They both presented numerous successful projects in front of the Historic Resources Commission. A couple years ago, a project came to Historic Resources Commission to demolish a really small shed on a vacant property adjacent to Darren's office. We turned it down because it was identified as a contributing element in the West Side Historic District. It's not always the grand architecture, it's the little buildings that make a difference in the district too. It went away and then came back. Darren was in the audience and he made the offer to move the building to his lot. Well, there were some issues with that. One, Title 18 doesn't allow you to put a building without a setback. Well, there was no room for the setback. Darren got with the property owner, and the property owner agreed to split the cost of moving it, and Darren took it upon himself to go to the planning department and get the Title 18 amendment changed so that contributing resources, like that small shed, could be moved to a zero light line within the historic district. It went to the board approved it. Darren now has, it's the proud owner of about a 10 by 20 inch or 10 by 20 foot shed that he will bring to the board or to the Historic Resources Commission to relocate on his property. Darren, in recognition of your support for historic preservation and in particular for your efforts to amend Title 18, we want to present you with the 2026 Historic Preservation Award.
I think it's probably the finest example of it really didn't make any financial sense, especially after he had to do the hoops of changing our Title 18. I'm like, ooh, that was almost as expensive as moving the shed, but that he cared enough for the public to have this element that probably didn't exist otherwise. Is it the only one that hits that element, and that's why it really gets the significance?
There's a number
A
of them,
couple others.
but this was one that was threatened.
There you go. So we really can't thank you enough. And tell us, what do you plan on doing in your little shed?
Well, I have a little Mazda Miata that kind of an impulse buy, but it needs a home. So it's sitting in a storage unit now, and I'm gonna park my Miata in there. Yeah. I got one more hurdle. You were speaking about all the layers to this. It's finding a property line in the historic district. So that's where I'm at. I'm utilizing Resource Concepts and their surveyor. And we're going to get that dialed in, and then I'll submit for permit and get that thing up hopefully before the snow starts flying. So,
Well, again, thank you so much for helping to contribute to Carson City's historic district. So if you got to look that way with us and have pictures, we always want proof. You're good. We got it? All right. Oh, and we will just add a quick line in case you want to join the scavenger.
Yeah, this year's scavenger hunt is looking at the evolution of properties into the modern era within the district. Outbuildings within Carson City's West Side Historic District include sheds, ice houses, and buildings constructed specifically for horses, carriages, and later motor vehicles. Many of these buildings were built after the house, but are considered to be contributing resources within the district. It's kind of a theme that we hit on a lot this year. There's not just the grand architecture, but there's other buildings that contribute. The outbuildings reflect a continuing adaptation of the property to evolving technological, sociological, and economic sectors. They may help tell the story about how Carson City changed through time. In addition to those outbuildings, to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence, while there are no 1776 buildings in Carson City, we're looking at the architectural style from that period. There are several federal and colonial style buildings in the district. Those are bonus questions on this year's scavenger hunt. So I think there are just 9 outbuildings, but we do have some other architecture. So if you want to participate, community development has the forms. I think they're available online. We want to thank Jim Phelan from Fox Brew Pub for, again, giving a gift certificate as the award for this year's scavenger hunt.
You know what?
What is the oldest building in Carson right now? Oldest surviving building?
Oh,
Putting you on the
thanks.
spot.
Yeah. That's a good
That's
question.
okay. Yeah.
Email us.
You don't know.
Yeah, I'm just curious. I don't know. But
I
know
did
the
have-
Presbyterian Church is the oldest church.
I did have a request from some members of the public that when the contest is done, if somewhere you would post the results, like one is the locations and the results, because they, even those that last year didn't get them all, they would like to know what it was. Because they feel like they worked really hard and missed one or something, so.
Yeah, next year, we're also going to work on some awards for people who participate. We just give the one award for, if there's multiple winners, we do a drawing. Next year, we'll try to get more awards for that too, because we've had great participation.
It's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun. So, okay, thank you so much for all you do. Okay. Perfect. All right. That's it for, we'll come up and get back on regular agenda. Okay, we're going to move to the consent agenda. And I'm going to have item 11D removed from consent so we can discuss. Did anybody want anything else? If not, Supervisor Giomi, a motion, please.
I move to approve the consent agenda consisting of item 11C, 11B, 11A,
How about
10A,
start-
9A,
Oh,
and
backwards.
8A, all as presented.
He went backwards.
I
Good
did.
for him. Do I have a second? And I have a second from Supervisor Shute. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect it was unanimous. We're now going to discuss agenda item 11D, and this is to decide if we're going to do a contract with Garden Shop Landscape for renovations or project at our park, Sunset Park. Nick, just to kind of let you know, I asked for this item to come off of consent because when I looked it up, I didn't see that it had been through any public hearings or designs where, generally speaking, I see our parks go to the park commission and they look at it, and maybe this one was just small enough you didn't see a lot there to go, but I really would like you to describe the project for the public and say what we're getting, and thank you. I think there was late material that you dropped off that has the picture, so if you could talk to us a little bit about this, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you. Good morning, Supervisors and Mayor. Nick Wentworth, Carson City Parks Project Manager for the record. Yeah, so in the past, I replaced Blackwell's Park Playground and didn't go through public meetings. Same, we've made some improvements at John Mankins and Ronald D. Wilson and other playgrounds. And they get outdated. Once they're 20 to 25 years old, replacement parts aren't available. We can't fix them anymore. Sunset Playground or Park Playground is one of the oldest playgrounds we have. It's also one of very few that's geared towards the 2 to 5 age range. When I did present, I don't even know, I should have done my homework. Several years ago, I presented a kind of a draft conceptual playground long-term plan to the Parks and Rec Commission and also to the board that proposed certain playgrounds we could do without. If you remember correctly, we have more playgrounds per capita than any of our neighboring communities by a lot. That was very much, there was a lot of pushback at removing Sunset, even though there's very close other playgrounds to there. So with it being one of the oldest, we put in motion for, obviously there was, that's done with RCT funding, and that is one of the approved ways to use that funding is for replacement of amenities. So I know that there are some questions. The reason I printed those specific sheets for the late material, there were some questions as to the trees being removed. We are still maintaining the 4 biggest, best, nicest trees that are there. The 3 trees that are being removed, 2 of them are underneath the power lines. They never should have been planted there to begin with. Well, the evergreen is way too close to the power lines, so the sides of it have been scalped. The large tree that's right next to the sidewalk is underneath the power lines. Horrible placement to begin with. The third tree that's coming out is way too close to the biggest, nicest tree there that puts out the most shade. And it's also directly in line of where we need to move the irrigation point of connection. We're moving the backflow device and the irrigation controller back off of the sidewalk. They're right on the corner right now where they're susceptible to vehicle damage. Also, safety concern for staff, get the staff off of the street when they're dealing with that stuff. So I feel like I was very thoughtful as to which trees we're protecting. We're also planting 5 new ones, so we're putting in more trees than what we're taking out. The ones that are coming out are wrong tree, wrong location, not doing well because they've been trimmed somewhat ridiculously to accommodate the power lines and other utilities, so.
Can you talk to me about the 5 trees that you're planting? When I look at the bid sheet, they're only like $604 each. And are they shade trees or are we moving in a different direction? Are they more ornamental?
They're under
instead
the power lines. So we need to keep small ornamental trees. We also don't want, I worked at modifying municipal code last year and having things written in so that we're not dropping fruit, flower, seed pod debris on public walkways and pathways. So there's a lot to consider into which trees go in there, that they're right next to the city sidewalk. We're not dropping debris and that kind of stuff on there so we don't get ourselves back in a situation like Silver Oak where we got plums all over the sidewalk and now we're ripping trees out. And so yes, they are flowering, small ornamental trees, things like that, because they're under the power lines. And 2 of them are not, I believe on your, I should have given myself one of those sheets. Let's see here. So you've got, on the north side, you've got dwarf catalpa and an existing tree up against the neighbor's property. Though, and the tree circles for the 4 existing that are remaining are drawn to scale, or those are based on the size they are. And yeah, so you've got 3 of these, actually the 3 that are going down Sunset along the side of the street, those are all underneath the power lines. And then you've got 2 on the corner, so 1 is very close in proximity to those utilities as well. And that is the location where the irrigation point of connection and the controller are now, that we're moving back off of the street where it's more accessible location for staff and not as much of an eyesore to have a stainless steel pedestal in a nice decorative planter where we're moving the monument sign. There was a lot of conversation back and forth with how to make that corner more appealing, more curb appeal, basically.
I just think it's important that I just know when the big trees are removed, I'm gonna guess that a phone call comes like simultaneous that we're removing the shade, because that's a very popular little, like just what you said, that park is all about the little ones, right? That's the little ones. So you think there's sufficient other remaining shade trees to accomplish
The
that
4
part?
trees that are remaining here that will have tree protection zones around are putting out 4 or 5 times as much usable shade.
Okay.
The one that's under the power lines that never should have been put there to begin with is maybe providing shade to someone that parks next to it, but it's shading the street and the sidewalk, and it's crowding utilities, and it was put in the wrong place to begin with. So the other ones that are remaining are providing, that's where we're putting picnic tables and benches, and that's where it's intended for families to hang out. It's
Enjoy.
away from the street and the sidewalk. Yeah.
Okay. Supervisor Shooty.
Hello. Hey, thank you so much for explaining the why behind the removal of the trees and the why behind the choice of the new trees. And I did go back and I found the conversations about all of the parks, and this was part of that on April 6th of 2021. And yeah, I know that several folks talked about Sunset Park and the playground and the littles and how it is so loved. And so I appreciate your and the team's effort to keep this as an available park for the little guys. And now they'll have some little trees, so yay.
I appreciate you pointing that out because
swinging.
I don't like to be, feel like we aren't hearing the public. This is in response to the public. So,
To keep the
Thank
park.
you.
Right, to keep the
yes.
park. Supervisor Horton.
How's it going, Nick?
Good,
You
thank
might
you.
recall a conversation from a couple of years ago. I'd gone up and met with several of the neighbors at their request and taken a look at the park. And it was in a state of disrepair, as some of our parks are and other facilities that we have. But I know you guys were going to jump right on it, and you did. And I want to tell you how much I appreciate it. And I think you're making a great effort here, and it's going to serve the community well. And it is a park that is well used by folks in that area and other folks from nearby. So I think it's important that we do this, and I want to applaud you for your safety conscious decision to remove that tree. As we all know, power lines and trees are hyper dangerous and not a good situation. So that's a wise thing to do. But congrats on making the decision to move forward on this. I think it's the right thing to do.
Thank you, Supervisor
Thank
Horton.
you. Supervisor Giomi.
Yeah, I'll just I'll just turn my mic off. I'll just add my support. I do recall that meeting that Supervisor Shooty brought up. I recall the discussion that there was contemplation this would be one of the parks that we could eliminate, at least eliminate the playground component. And I remember the public comments that were very much opposed to that. And so I think you're taking the right approach. This is a little jewel of a park. The setting is idyllic. I mean, it's the grass area to just lay in the grass. And I took my kids there when they were young, and remember playing Frisbee and throwing the ball in that grass. It's a beautiful park with a beautiful setting. The homes around it, the historic homes around it. It's really one of my favorite parks in the city, and to sort of snuff it up, I think is great. So thank you.
Thanks. Okay, thank you. Is there, you have more?
I will add,
Sure.
thank you for that, Supervisor Giomi. I will add also, speaking of the turf, there's no real turf reduction here. Essentially, the turf just kind of migrates into dirt right now. There will be a nice clean edge where that transitions to the new sidewalk, the new picnic table. We're installing benches and picnic tables under those existing shade trees between the playground and the turf. So it'll be much more user-friendly now.
I think the turf is a real important part of this park. So
yes.
I appreciate the preservation of that.
I agree. Thank you so much. Is there any public comment on this item? Mr. French? Thank you, Nick.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm Denny French, Carson City. I want to appreciate the mayor's pulling this to this discussion aspect of things. It makes things a lot easier for me to relinquish some of those trees that I would have, through the pictures, wanted to have kept. But understanding that my picture exposure that was available did not show those power lines, so this explanation helps, and I didn't get out there to see the park as it is. I am concerned about the removal of a tree next to a tree. It often disrupts the growth of the tree you're trying to save, so the particular consideration should be taken on that. I also noticed that on the plans, they're taking away 2 swings, and I don't know the purpose of that. They already have what I think is a perfectly well-set swing set unless they're relocating. I'd also like that this particular map does not suggest, and I know that I don't have all the material, but the base foundation for that playground? Have they determined what that material is going to be? And if someone could give me an explanation, I'd appreciate it. You mentioned Wilson Park, Ronald Wilson Park, and their playground equipment was put on a rubber mat that had springs in it, much like a mattress, and it broke away the top, and then you would have the spring-type fixtures underneath like pillars, and it gave out fairly quickly in its time out there, and I would not recommend that particular material again. So thank you for the presentation, and thank you for offering this opportunity. I'm sorry that the Korean circumstance was not pulled from the consent agenda. I feel that that asphalt situation is a shame, and I'm holding to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Do I have any other public comment? No? Okay, I'll bring it back up here. Who would like to make a motion? Supervisor Shooty.
I move to approve the contract and contingency as presented and authorize the Parks Director to approve expenditure of the contingency if necessary. Oh, sorry.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Thank you so much. Okay, we are now on to agenda item 13A. This is for discussion only, a presentation on our legislative drafting efforts to date. Are you going to introduce or straight to? Hello? Come on up and talk to us about how it's going. I liked one thing I saw in the report. You're ahead of schedule. I'm holding you to it, even if it didn't say that. No. I know.
Good morning, Madam Mayor and Supervisors. For the record, I'm Nick Anthony, representing Anthony Law this morning. It's a pleasure to be with you to give you an update on agenda item 13, your code revision project. Long and short is, yes, we are ahead of schedule, but I will get to some more details here for you in just a moment. First, I'd like to thank you all for the opportunity to work on this project. It's really exciting, and I think it'll be a huge benefit to this board, to your staff, and to the citizens of Carson City. It's really an exciting project, and it's time to undertake this project. With that said, I'll give you a little history, kind of where we are and where we're looking to go, timeline, some of the revisions that have been made. We are approximately 6 months and 1 day in. It was November 6th that this project was approved. Our office immediately began reviewing your drafting manual that was so eloquently prepared by the District Attorney's Office, began reviewing the city charter, and then in earnest, get a hard copy of the Carson City Municipal Code and began reviewing that as well. Before any work was completed in earnest, I met with Mr. Dan Yu of the District Attorney's Office. I want to thank Mr. Yu for his advice and counsel. We've been meeting every 2 weeks to go over the project. I've been updating them on status. We've been talking about different issues, different strategies, different timelines to get this project to you in as an expedient manner as possible. With that said, looking at this code that is nearly 1,000 pages, single-spaced, double-column, double-sided, rather lengthy, a decision was made instead of bringing pieces or titles to you one at a time. It's 21 titles, as you know. Instead of bringing each title, I believe it makes more sense to bring it as a whole, as one project. Part of the reason for that is the titles, while they're substantively independent, they do intertwine with each other with internal references to both CCNMC, state law, federal law, and the like. For instance, Title I is a preliminary title. It's where you lay out your legislative declarations and definitions for the entirety of the CCMC. And therefore, I read this more as a book or a novel to accurately change, add, revise any definitions in Title I. We kind of have to know what goes on in Title 21, the ending of the book as well. So with that said, it'll be in 2 phases to start. Phase 1 is what we call a pencil review, a drafter's review. We go through each title and section and make pencil revisions. We're looking for not only style, punctuation, grammar, and the like, but also legality, legal references. We highlight in yellow any references to state, federal law, regulation, other cross-references to CCMC, double-check all those. And then we break it down even further. There'll be times where we might take a chapter, break it into numerous sections, take a section, break it down into subsections, paragraphs, subparagraphs, subparagraphs, and the like. So it's a rather time-consuming process. You'll see, I just wanted to provide just a little tiny snapshot this morning in your materials under item 13. You do have 2 chapters there, chapter 5.01 and 5.02. I provided those as phase 1. You can see my pencil revisions and what that looks like from a drafter's perspective. And then phase 2, you can see what a redlined version or black and white version looks like typed into the computer. Talking just briefly about some of the specific changes you'll see there. Like in 5.01, I think we broke things out. We moved a couple sections around. But we also, in reviewing state statutory law, noticed a change there for the franchise fees to go to all public schools instead of the local public schools. So we'll be making substantive changes like that as well. Where I do find a substantive change like that, we will put a text box in and go ahead and explain that so that the readers in the audience are well aware of any substantive changes. In chapter 5.02, same thing, pencil remarks. We did some reorganization there in terms of moving definitions. Usually definitions for legislative drafting style start at the beginning of the title of the chapter. So we moved those up and then created numerous sections there just so it's easier for the reader. A lot of times when we're reading older code, it was written in such a manner that it was kind of long, verbose, for lack of a better word, blocks of text. And so the newer style is to break that down, and it just makes it more of a roadmap and easier for staff and members of the public to use. In your phase 2, you will see the black and white versions. Again, that's a process that's going to take a little bit longer. We do not have a drafting tool, so those are all manually done. We bracket out old language with strike through, add new language with bold underline. So we're anticipating that might take a little bit longer. But going back to the proposed timeline and where I think we've made up some ground and are ahead of schedule is we're actually over halfway through the various titles in the initial pencil review. And I'm hoping to get that done early this fall, which would then give us, I think it's going to take at least a year to go through and insert those. But essentially, you'll have the roadmap done here this fall. And then from there, it'll just be the technical adding it into typed language. Also in your materials, you'll note I included a phase 3, which is completely optional, and that comes after phase 2. Phase 2, I will give you the whole CCMC. We'll work with the district attorney's office to turn those into ordinances. We stand ready to assist with any ordinance adoptions, workshops, public hearings, whatever you would like, however you want to move forward in that process. And then once that's complete, there's an optional phase 3, which our office would be happy to, quote unquote, do a draft codification of the entire CCMC. So that would be removing all the strike through and bracketed language and bold and underline to make it read just like it were codified. I know it'll go to your vendor for codification, but sometimes that might take a little while. I think we might be able to speed that up a little bit, and that would help staff to just have a clean, it would clearly be stamped draft, but to have a clean draft. But that item, phase 3, doesn't need to be decided today. That's sometime in the future if the board so chooses to move in that direction. But really, I just want to thank you again for this opportunity. It's an exciting project, and all our years' experience, I feel that we're going to get there. We're well ahead of the schedule. I didn't want to overload you with several hundred pages of exhibits today, so you just get a little snapshot. I want to thank District Attorney Yu again for his work and help on this project. And with that, I'm pleased to answer any questions, Madam Mayor.
Okay, so we have, I'm just looking for a process. We have several of our departments that also want to make substantive changes within that. So my question becomes, if you're through phase 2, when do the substantive changes come? Because you're going to draft it as it is with cleanup language and reordering, and where does that come in that you think is the best placement for that activity?
Honestly, if they're aware of substantive changes that need to be made now, it might be good to include them
Submit them.
as quickly as possible. Because otherwise, if we go all the way through phase 2 and have a working document, and then you're going back in, might have to reorder, it might double the workflow versus if we could see them now or whenever they're ready, we can incorporate them. I'd like to do that in phase 1 if possible, so before this fall.
Okay, maybe we, and Dan
Maybe
can
Mr.
jump
Yu
in,
has
because
some-
I just get, I don't want to say confused, but it's difficult for me to see that, okay, he's rewritten all of it, and then I come a month later and say, oh, change chapter 5, we don't want to do this anymore, we want to do that, and you have to go back and reorder, but I also don't want to stop forward progress. So it's more that, I don't know if it's that we would be immediately letting you know, these are 3 chapters we want to work on this year, and that you know, then do phase 1 and 2 on everything but these 3 and give the department a deadline. You have to turn them in the next, I don't know, 6 weeks, or guess what? You might be waiting 2 or 3 years. I don't know. I just question what's the best process.
I mean, this is a great question. I think this is a recurring question that we've had over the last several years. And the analogy that I think is probably most appropriate, and I think I've also referenced this before, is, when we do, try to endeavor towards a comprehensive revision of the code, as Nick has pointed out on the record, a couple thousand pages, if we're talking double-sided, and that's double columns, right? Single space. It's voluminous at a minimum. When we try to change the floor plan while we're in the middle of reconstructing a house, it makes it extremely difficult to implement those changes through the course of that construction work. That's the analogy I use here. So when we're revising the foundation up, and then everything wall to wall on the inside, from Title 1 to Title 21, including the appendix. And then we come in periodically with additional substantive changes. That, of course, rearranges the language that's already been implemented as technical revisions. Now, it's not to say that it can't be done, but one of the things that we don't have a mechanism for, especially when we're sort of constrained by very, very strict directives pursuant to the city charter and how ordinances must be drafted, we don't have, as Nick has pointed out on the record, a drafting tool. If you look at a legislative measure that goes through the Nevada legislature, you'll see from the beginning of session to the end of session several drafts of the same bill where it starts out with simply black language, black text as original text. You're going to have blue language as newly proposed language. You're going to have red stricken text as proposed removals. Halfway through session, what you're going to see are lines of text that now are appearing in orange, green, double strike through red, double strike through blue, and those all signify ongoing changes to changes that have already been proposed. So there are amendments upon amendments upon amendments. So again, we don't really have that mechanism to do that. Now, the other thing that the legislature does is you have 120 days to move through all your legislation. And then for the next year and a half prior to going into the next session, you have all this time to codify. The other thing that we're sort of faced with as a hurdle is as we draft, we're constantly codifying. But because there is that lag time between adoption of a measure here by the board and the time it takes for our outside vendor Muni Code to get that codified and uploaded, when we say during that period of time, now we want to go back to something that's been adopted but has not yet been codified, we're now trying to take text that's proposed language and then trying to recodify that with newly amended language. Now, Nick and I have been talking extensively about how to game this out and trying to figure out the most appropriate, most convenient way. And by convenient, I mean something that's going to be most easy for staff, for this board, and of course, most importantly, for members of the public to be able to follow. I think we have an ability to figure something out over the course of the next couple of months. We're pretty early on in the stage. I know Nick is well ahead of schedule. One of the things that we're talking about is, as he's mentioned before, the phase 3 portion of this, where we codify internally or with Nick's, assistance, a working PDF searchable text. We can, and I agree with Nick in the sense that when you're rewriting a book, so to speak, you really have to redraft it from one chapter, from the beginning to the very end of the book. Now, that being said, what we can present to the board in periodic chunks, if you will be portions of titles that shows this is what's being solidified. Because it wouldn't make sense in our minds to introduce on first reading an ordinance that's 3,000 or 4,000 pages long. So we would want to have multiple hearings to have discussion and debate on the record, to field questions, not only from this board, but also the community and staff members, so that we can make additional revisions if necessary. Once everything's been finalized, after we do that in periodic, again, blocks of titles, we can come back as a first introduction, and then that first introduction would actually be an ordinance of 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 pages in length. But then we would immediately transition to that new phase where we have to quickly figure out, how to put this in a searchable text, so we don't wait 3, 4, 5 years for our outside vendor to get this uploaded in a Muni Code on the website. As you all recall, Title 18, just the drafting effort itself, along with the appendix to that, that was almost a year-long effort of just drafting. It was about 9 months. But then it took over a year for our vendor to get that codified and uploaded onto the website. So we don't want to have that sort of delay. So we're trying to game this out far in advance for the board.
Supervisor Giomi?
Can we, what's the law or what's allowed relative to codification? So let's say we do, and if I understand you correctly, you would get us to phase 2, and then we would kind of see hunks of chapters to provide chunks, hunks, pieces
Chunky hunks.
of chapters so that we could provide input to what's existing, perhaps, as opposed to what could be or what we want to change. So basically, whether, just as an example, I see in here that we specify city clerk recorder. To me, I don't know that the word city needs to be in there. It's our city ordinance. The clerk recorder is only the city's clerk recorder, right? So this is just an example of what, so those are the kinds of things, right, that we might throw input to you on. And then we would come back and adopt on phase 3 the hunk of work, because at this point we would have seen it in pieces, but now it would be the whole shebang. So let's say we do that and we approve that. Can the codification of that be the simple posting of that PDF document on our website as opposed to with Muni code? I mean,
That's what we did with Title
so we could put a red line version on the website, and that version on the website, along with the ordinance or the agenda item that says we've adopted this, and that's it. It's codified. Now we can go back and pick a chapter and say, okay, we've got the framework. Now we want to do the interior design, to carry your analogy, right?
I mean, that's absolutely correct. I mean, I want to be very clear here on the record that there's nothing in state law that mandates local governmental entities to have a codified version of their local ordinances. I mean, at least based on my last review. I mean, certainly there's no mandate through state law that says, you know, we have to use a particular vendor, of course, and just doing a simple search throughout the different sister jurisdictions in Nevada, you know, everybody does it differently. I mean, by and large, everybody tends to use MuniCode. That's one of the 3 or 4 largest MuniCode publishers, you know, that offer those services nationwide. In fact, several months ago, you know, Deputy City Manager Stephanie and myself, you know, had, you know, started an outreach campaign of sorts where we had contacted various vendors to see if we could, secure better pricing for our existing contract. And for the next time we got to renew, we worked with Scott Hohen's office as well as a clerk recorder. You know, all pricing seemed to be fairly on equal grounds. But then the second thing, equally important, was to see if we could get a service provider who would really be able to amp things up, ramp things up for us and make it quicker. Timelines were all approximately the same as well.
Well, I guess to me, that speaks to the simplicity of just throwing up a PDF on our website and let people, I mean, with AI, you can use an AI feature to search a document fairly easily, you know?
So I think 2 things that Nick and I are looking forward to doing, you know, in the upcoming months, in a couple of years or so, when we get to that phase 3, is maybe having 2 sets, right? Just again, using NRS as an example, you know, I like to, you know, remind, you know, different folks that I practice law with that, you know, and, you know, I think most attorneys know this, you know, NRS is not the law. I mean, that's just simply the codified version of the law. If you want to look at state law, what Nevada law is, you look at statutes of Nevada. So you pull up statutes of Nevada, and that's the entirety of the text. You go to NRX, that's an annotated version. There may actually be text that's law that's not even included in there, and that's, you know, during the drafting and codification process. You know, you'll see certain sections when you crack. If you're ever bored enough, you want to open up those blue books, you'll see what's called revisor's notes. And those are notes to the members of the public that show, you know, here are certain texts that have made it in, here are certain texts that have not been codified. But if you really want to look at everything soup to nuts, what a bill says, you go to statutes of Nevada. So similar to that, what we could do with our local ordinances is we could have one set where it is the adopted ordinance. And that's where you're going to see, well, here are all the changes. Now, that's, of course, a lot more difficult to follow, which is why, as a courtesy and as a matter of course, what everybody does is we have now a codified, clean version. So I think we could probably, I mean, at a minimum, we could certainly, as we continue to go through the process, we'll continue to post, and that's what MuniCode does right now. They're fairly quick with that. We can post all the ordinances as adopted. Concurrently with that, we can work on some sort of a searchable text PDF or something like that as the city's own bank of data, and then later wait for Municode or another vendor to continue with their codification to upload that, because then they do have different search functions. But you're absolutely right. I mean, with just the evolution of AI, there's probably a quicker way to do that. It's certainly a lot faster now than it was 10 years ago. So we're hopeful that we might be able to leverage some of those capabilities using AI.
I can tell you, I'm almost at a point where in my other job, I deal with a lot of federal regulations, and it's frankly almost easier to point an AI bot at that document and tell it to find every instance of
latest.
X, Y, and Z, and it returns it in no time at all. Almost easier than, not almost, it is easier than searching in Municode. So there's something to be said for the simplicity of just taking the document and putting it on the,
Sure. And, as an attorney, I mean, I wouldn't, really be doing justice to my profession without being a bit of a Debbie Downer here, in that, I do want to exercise some degree of caution when it comes to using AI. We've had instances, just to pull as an example, just over the course of the last few months, as we review as the DA's office, staff reports that are submitted by various departments, we've noted, at least a couple of instances of AI generated data pools that reference specific dates
that don't
of
exist.
past meetings, and it looks like the real deal. But then you go back, because, everybody, from the city manager's office to the DA's office of staff, after that data is pulled, we'll go back and we'll confirm, we'll double check. And we've caught that, where even though it looks very real, the meeting never even existed.
I understand what you're saying, but in this, I get that.
But it gives you a quick
And I
tool.
appreciate the caution. At the same time, I think this doesn't have to be overcomplicated from a viewpoint of just viewing a document. What you're talking about is providing a reference to something that didn't exist because it was leading to an important decision. And in this case, you're simply putting up words on paper and allowing people to see that as the law of the land, if you will, or, our little piece of the land. So, and I wouldn't earn my junior attorney badge if I didn't disagree with you a little bit, Dan. So,
Does anyone else have any questions? Oh, Supervisor Horton?
My question's for Dan, pretty much. When do we discuss, 7, 9, 13, 18, and all that? When does that get introduced into the process? What's the timeline you think, and how do we do it?
That's going to be completely dependent on the scope and the complexity of what's being proposed by staff. I'm actually, Supervisor Horton, I'm glad you asked me that question on the record, because now I could speak to that, when I use the same word, chunk or hunk, that Supervisor Jeremy likes to use, address it all in one hunk. Because I get that question all the time, from my clients to city departments that I work with on a day-to-day basis. Hey, when can we get, or what's a realistic timeline if I were to propose this ordinance? And my answer is always, I have no idea. It's completely dependent on how large and complex your proposed concept is. If it's a 3-page ordinance and there's zero legal research involved, I don't have to spend a lot of time on it. There are some other factors that we can't control, because litigation comes up, certain deadlines come up, we get grievances, employee grievances, and there are certain urgent deadlines, with respect to court filings and the like, that we're going to have to handle. Those are going to take priority. But when there's a legislative proposal, we do prioritize it, believe it or not. It's just a matter of how many hours do we have in a day. And of course, I'm going to jump the gun here. I know Supervisor Giommi is going to say, hey, we can squeeze 25 hours out of a 24-hour period. And we and we really, really do try. Right, yeah,
Oh,
right,
8
right. 8
days.
days a week, right?
I'd even go as low as 23.
Right. Well, that's too generous of you, but no, we really do, and we've had ordinance before. Where it's a simple number change, it's a numerical change. We're gonna decrease this fee of $250 to $225, or we're going to increase it by $5 or $10, or we're going to change a notice period of, instead of 5 days notice, it's 10 days notice now. Those things are easy. But what we also try to do is when we crack open, so to speak, that
wanna get it all.
particular section, we also, not only do we have to make sure we do all of our proper cross-referencing, because that's something that people forget sometimes is, well, when you're amending one section, it doesn't mean you're living in an isolated universe. You got to look at the entire book to make sure that if I'm making this change here, I'm not missing 15 changes in other chapters. So that in and of itself takes some time. But yeah, by and large, if it's a small bill, it's complex, it doesn't require constitutional analysis, it's going to be a quick turnaround. If you have a lengthy bill, it's going to take much more time, especially if it involves a lot of legal research. So it's completely contingent on what's being proposed. Now, again, with respect to what Nick and I are doing in tandem together, we can certainly, and of course, this is up to Nick, with respect to, his bandwidth and how he's able to kind of put this into the scope of his contract that this board has adopted. I'm happy to work with him and staff on trying to ramp up these different proposed concepts as soon as we start receiving them. And I know the city manager's office has been working with their client or at the departments to start collecting these proposals. We can sequence that out based on the prioritization that's established by the city manager's office, which I know that, they can speak with the board on the record about. Once I have that prioritization, I can sequence it out with Nick. And then as he continues his revision process, we can pull pieces of it out. And as he's making his clerical and technical revisions, we can incorporate the substantive revisions and then bring that forward to the board. What we're not saying is, well, to include those substantive provisions from different department staff, we're going to have to wait until phase 3. Just want to make clear, we're not saying that at all. We can pull and we can basically come to a stop, bring it to the board for first and second readings and get that through. But especially with Nick's assistance, because he and I come from the same school of thought, school of training when it comes to legislative drafting. We can really work in tandem and hopefully speed the process up.
Thank you. Supervisor Schutte.
So what would be a proposed deadline for these revisions? Because I think that would be helpful. And you had mentioned early fall.
A phase.
Yeah,
Sorry, yeah, so for this, the deadlines for the proposed revisions, so I think we need to prioritize. Am I correct in stating that?
to Supervisor Schutte, yes, as we discussed, Phase 1, which is the pencil revisions of all 21 titles, is anticipated to be done this fall.
Oh, I'm sorry,
then-
so from the different departments, from the city, so any changes to make it better?
Yeah, if we could get those in before that time, as quickly as possible. Say if you had one from Department of Works today, we would take it today. As quickly as possible, and then we'll work those in, and as we're drafting, we will identify those as substantive changes with a text box or a flag, something to draw attention to the board that this is new language for your consideration, as opposed to revisions or reorganization.
Perfect. Supervisor White?
Thank you. It seems like perhaps we should direct the city manager to direct his direct reports that this needs to be a priority for them. Otherwise, this is going to drag out forever. We need to get those requested code changes ASAP and get those into the system.
I even have a few myself.
I'm sure they're already working on it.
I'm
Can I
saying
ask
we need to-
procedurally something though? So let's say I'm a department head and I have some potential changes. Is the most effective, because I really liked seeing your pencil examples. So I thought, is that a great form for the department heads to do that very same thing? to just really look at it and pencil it in and say, whoops, that's out now, or this NRS was changed, and then they write their new paragraph to replace it or whatever. Is that the most helpful methodology to get you the information? Because I don't want the department heads doing work 2 or 3 times either. We want to streamline whatever's the most helpful. So maybe
We need to specify
can-
the format in which.
yeah,
want
maybe you
this
can work
information.
with them, with the city manager
Sure.
on that.
Great question. I'm going to jump in real quick. 'Cause I know Nick's got some input here as well. So, your pencil marks, again, when I was referencing earlier, this idea that, Nick and I come from the same drafting school, so to speak. That's sort of like, if you submit a manuscript to an editor, right, in New York, they come down and they've got a number 2 pencil and then they're making their scribble marks. That's really for your own personal drafting purposes. I can guarantee you half this room is never going to be able to decipher my handwriting, especially if I'm making edits, to my printed pages. I don't think that's maybe the most ideal method, but of course, happy to work with staff in the city manager's office to come up with the best form and format. A lot of times what we receive as drafters is just a concept. And as long as you're able to give us enough of the details, what we can't work with and what can be frustrating at times is if we were to get a proposal that says, we want to just simply do X, Y, and Z. Okay, we want to make this happen. Well, what does make this happen mean? You have to tell us what exactly do you want to implement? What is the process, the procedure? People often overlook things like, are we talking about a hearing? Notices to whom? What are your deadlines? What are your fees? What's your licensing schedule? Who's enforcing this? City staff. These are all policy questions that I can't just make up. Now, we can fill in some of those gaps as drafters. We pick up the phone, we call, and we'll have that discourse. But if we are able to get a proposal in one of 2 forms, one is you take the statute or the ordinance itself printed out, and you create your own red lines, your proposed red lines, and you submit that to me and to Nick, and we'll work off of that. We'll finesse it, and we'll put in the right language to make sure we carry out the intent. The other way to do it is to send us a summary of what you're intending to do with bullet points, and you don't need to figure out as staff where exactly in the code should this go, because that's a drafting decision. That should be a drafting decision in terms of where's the proper placement of provisions. So you don't need to figure out as staff, how should I break this section up or this title up? Leave that to the drafters. And that's, I think, the redundancy you're talking about, right? We're not going to try to step in the shoes of our subject matter experts. I'm not a, I speak with Hope on a weekly basis, and I always say, I'm not a city planner. I'll never try to pretend to be a city planner. I'm not a city engineer. You give me the details. I will put it in legal draft form for you for enforceability, defensibility, and to make sure that the mechanics of it operate properly. So it can come in any shape or fashion so long as we have sufficient details. But I would just encourage staff, and I know the city manager's office has been putting in a lot of effort in having discussions with the various departments in sequencing this out and acting as a receptacle, so to speak, on receiving this information. That'll get funneled over to me in the near future, and then I'll continue to work with Nick. I will also mention, though, of course, if we do add this on a Nick's plate, and I'm happy to add as much as possible on a Nick's plate as a good friend of mine, that's going to delay necessarily the other aspect of his work, which is just the clerical revision, right? Because if you got to stop on the clerical work, now you've got to draft substantive, there's a divergence there.
I get
right?
it.
So.
Perfect.
I-
Supervisor Giomi?
Yeah, I think from my perspective, I'd rather delay it a little bit to get it all done, together, because I was originally going to say maybe we should set priorities in terms of titles, but the more I hear you talk, the more I think that it really needs to be done as a package because of the interdependencies. And for us to say Title IV is a priority, yeah, we could make it a priority, but it touches other chapters. So I think, setting in terms of chapter priorities probably makes less sense than setting, as Supervisor White said, a deadline for staff to get the information to the collective you, not Dan you, but you. You like that pun?
That was good.
So that you can sequence it. And I think as a body, we probably understand that that pushes the work out a little bit, but in the end, it makes it a better product. It has to, because otherwise we're revising what we just revised. And that seems like
We're already
overwork to
doing
me.
that.
It does not make sense. So I would strongly support providing a deadline to staff to get input in the very near future. And Dan, and I'll leave it to you guys, would it be helpful to maybe have like an afternoon, hour and a half session? You bring all the directors in, you guys do this, not a public meeting, but just go over what you want from them so that when they're presenting it to you, it's sort
Closed.
of equal and the same. So you don't get X, Y, and Z from one and something completely different from, Pope does one thing and Darren does something completely different, And maybe it doesn't matter to you, but given they both have expertise in their areas, it seems like they could collect their thoughts in a way that works for you and them so that it can speed the process along a little bit. And if you tell them, this is the way we want you to do it, they're capable of doing that.
I think one of the other important pieces that I've noticed, and maybe when you're having that meeting or the city managers talking with staff, the other thing I've found is it does cross several departments. So one department is submitting something and the other department didn't see it before it was drafted, and then they're coming up with the changes. So anything we can do to streamline that at the front end where the affected departments are signing off.
Well, that
would
may
be great.
That may be something you could capture in a little bit of a workshop.
Yeah.
Where
To
Dan
say, wait,
hosts
make sure
an afternoon workshop
they
where you're
liked it.
talking about that and looking at those interdependencies
Right.
again in advance, so that
Right.
there's awareness among all the departments that what Hope is working on is X, Y, and Z, and what Darren's doing and Jen's doing,
Right.
and how that may affect others. So it
maybe
might
that-
help. It might help.
Maybe that stops redrafting or the loss of time too, to go, well, I did that on
Another
behalf
video,
of
Dan.
this department. Oh, yeah, I like it. So, okay. Supervisor Horton, and then we're going to move on the agenda unless there's something.
Supervisor Jomey covered pretty much what I was going to say, but I think Dan and Glenn can get together and figure out how they want to get that done, how they want that information formatted, disseminated to the directors, and they'll do that successfully. But I think we can all agree that it is a priority, and that the city manager, who I'm sure is already working on it, will continue to work diligently on this and get this done. But I think we all agree that it's important and we need to get it knocked out.
Perfect. Okay. Well, with that, thank you so much. This is a non-action item, so thank you so very much. And would you continue to go faster and get more ahead of schedule? I just thought I'd throw that out there. It doesn't hurt to ask.
We'll buy you a box of pencils.
Yeah, I like
Absolutely,
those.
trying my best and look forward to working with all the parties and happy to sit in on any meetings with the department heads.
Perfect.
So thank
Okay,
you
thank
again.
you again.
Thank you.
Okay, does anyone need a quick recess? Let's just have a quick recess and Jerlene can come and set up. I think she has a PowerPoint or something, and we'll just take a quick little bring the Board of Supervisors back to order. We're on agenda item 14A. This is discussion and possible action with report on the Humane Society and their request to increase their contract by $150,000. So with us today, we have Jerlene Bryant from the Humane Society. You want to start with the report?
Yeah, good morning, Mayor Bagwell and Board of Supervisors. My name is Jerlene Bryant. I'm the CEO of the Nevada Humane Society. Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm going to present, we'll be sharing an update on the programs and services that we provide to the Carson City community. So everything we do in Carson City really falls into these three core areas: adoptions, sheltering, and humane enforcement. And each of these plays a critical role in supporting both animals and the community. Adoptions are what people think of first, but there's a lot behind that number. Those 1,182 pets represent animals that were cared for, medically treated, behaviorally supported, and ultimately placed into homes. Shelter for pets in need is where we serve as the safety net for Carson City residents when they have nowhere else to turn. That includes owner surrenders, animals in crisis situations, and pets needing medical or behavioral support. Humane enforcement, this is a critical but sometimes less visible part of our work. We manage animal control services for Carson City, responding to calls, ensuring public safety, and protecting animal welfare. This includes cruelty investigations, stray response, and enforcement of local ordinances. It's really where public safety and animal welfare intersect.
So can I ask a question on the humane enforcement? How many animals do you bring to Carson City from outside Carson City?
I would love to be able to answer those questions for you, and they may be in the rest of my slides. Is it possible that if they're not, then I can answer those questions at the end of the presentation?
I didn't understand what you just said.
She wants to wait to answer
Can
questions.
she answer the question?
Till she's done.
Thank you.
Okay.
Animals from outside of Carson City, for enforcement, no animals outside of Carson City for enforcement. Our enforcement officers.
Actually, I didn't understand your explanation earlier when I don't know what you said to my original question. If you could repeat that, please.
Are you asking me what animals come to the Carson City shelter that are outside of Carson City?
I think you said you'd like to answer the questions after your presentation. Is that what you said?
I believe that I have information that will be helpful in my presentation and may be able to answer questions. And if they don't, and if it doesn't, I would love to field those questions at the completion of my presentation.
Okay.
Okay? Okay. And then I'm happy to answer any and all. So I want to take a moment to walk through how Nevada Humane Society is funded overall, because this reflects our entire organization, not just Carson City operations. There's sometimes a perception that we are primarily government funded, and that is not the case. The vast majority of our funding comes from philanthropic support, individual donors, foundations, and community giving. While the funding provided by Carson City for animal services is meaningful, it does not fully cover the cost of providing those services. Nevada Humane Society is a large and well-known brand in our community. However, we have struggled to cultivate and expand our philanthropic program meaningfully in Carson City and surrounding areas. Last year, Carson City and surrounding area donors, Gardnerville, Minden, et cetera, provided $168,400 in philanthropic support. And you'll see that in the tan area for the red area for contract revenue. That is the $842,000 in represents the contract with Carson City currently in place. And then the additional funding is fees that we receive for owner surrenders and owner reclaims that have to do with enforcement and sheltering. At the end of the day, everything we do does come back to this, creating positive outcomes for pets and the people in our community. In just the first quarter of 2026, we've already completed 166 adoptions here in Carson City. This slide gives you a look at adoption trends in Carson City over the past several years. You can see that we've consistently placed a significant number of animals into homes each year, generally ranging between 1,300 and 1,500 adoptions annually. That level of consistency reflects a strong, stable adoption program. You will notice a dip in 2025. That is not due to a decrease in effort or effectiveness. It's largely tied to fewer animals coming into our system. Regardless of fluctuations, each of these adoptions still requires the same level of care, staffing, and medical support.
What do you attribute that decrease?
Oh, I'm going to get to it.
Perfect. Okay, thanks.
Okay. This slide shows intake trends over time, broken down by how animals are coming into our care, owner surrenders, and protective custody. One of the most important trends here is owner surrenders. In 2024, our animal help desk team in Reno, at our campus in Reno, expanded to include a focus on Carson City to provide resources to pet parents, process surrender requests, and keep pets in homes when possible. A cost savings to taxpayers in the form of fewer animals coming into the shelter. As you can see, this approach is working here in Carson City. I also think it's important to note surrenders are often more complex cases that require additional support and resources. Strays also continue to make up a large portion of our intake, which ties directly to our animal control responsibilities. These are animals that require holding periods, medical evaluation, and reunification efforts. So, Supervisor Giomi, it's hard to say exactly why the decrease in animals, but it does correlate with our Reno help desk team reaching out and fielding those requests and seeing if there's something we can do to help keep that pet in the home that loves them.
Or transferred to a family member, I would assume.
Exactly.
Or something similar.
Sometimes it's as simple as they can't feed their pet and we can help. Sometimes it's medical. So this is the enforcement side of our work, and it's where we are serving Carson City's where we are serving as Carson City animal control provider. Our officers are out in the community every day responding to calls, everything from stray animals at large to welfare concerns to public safety issues. In just the first quarter of 2026, our team has already responded to 410 cases. And last year, that total was over 1,800 cases that our enforcement team handled. So this is the part of our work that isn't often as visible, but it's incredibly important. Protective custody is about supporting people in the community during difficult or unexpected situations. That might be a hospitalization, a housing transition, or another crisis where someone temporarily can't care for their pet. They love them. They just need temporary help. We're able to step in, provide short-term care so that individuals can focus on getting back on their feet, knowing that their pet is safe. In the first quarter of this year, we've already provided 47 protective custody placements. Reuniting lost pets with their families is another important aspect of what we do, and one of the best outcomes for both the animals and the community. In the first quarter of this year, about 72% of dogs were returned to their owners, and for cats, about 25% were returned to their owner. These return to owner rates for dogs we're very proud of for dogs and cats. For dogs, they are more than double the national average, which is 34%. So I think it really speaks to our community, and it speaks to my team that is diligent and working hard to get those animals back to their homes. And for cats, we're seeing rates that are significantly higher than the 6% that is nationally seen. Why does this matter? Because every pet that is returned to its owner is one less animal entering the shelter system long-term. It reduces length of stay, reduces costs, and keeps families intact. Dog licensing is a simple tool, but it plays a really important role in our overall system. A current license helps us identify pets quickly and return them home faster. In many cases, a licensed dog never even needs to enter the shelter. They can be returned directly in the field by one of our officers. In the first quarter of this year, we issued 135 licenses. That's a 64% increase compared to the same time last year, with NHS on pace to issue over 500 licenses in 2026. Before pets ever enter our shelter, this is often where it starts. It's the first call for help from someone in our community. These are typically people who are struggling, whether it's financial hardship, housing challenges, or unexpected life changes. In just the first quarter, we received 94 surrender applications. And that's a significant number of individuals reaching out for help before having to make that difficult decision to give up their pet. As the designated surrender agency for Carson City, this is a core part of our responsibility to the community. We are the place people turn when they have no other option for their pet, and we're often meeting people at one of the hardest moments that they're facing. In just the first quarter of this year, we have taken in 137 pets that that had to be surrendered by their family. We are very excited to introduce you all to this newest initiative that NHS is undertaking. For many years, we've been supporting colony caretakers through a variety of ways, including taking in neonatal kittens that are found in the community, trap, neuter, and return efforts, supplemental food assistance to those families that are struggling to feed their pets, and a variety of other resources. But while doing this work, we have not been operating from a place of data-driven decision-making. The only way we can help colony cats and their caretakers is if we have the data to support them. And I'd like to introduce you to the community cat heat map. While in its early stages, and I would like to emphasize early stages, this is really a sneak peek on this program. This map, which is currently cropped to Carson City, includes the data NHS currently has for known cat colonies, breaking out ear-tipped from non-ear-tipped, which then means spayed and not spayed or neutered. Phase 2 of this data collection project will be to collect address information for neonatal kittens that NHS intakes to correlate with known colonies and with unknown hotspots so that we can target trapping efforts through collaboration with TNR groups. We're committed to making this information available to our partners who are doing boots on the ground work already. And again, this is I can't say it enough times, early stages, but we're excited for this collaboration and how data-driven decisions will positively impact community cats in our area. It is nationally the only recognized way to decrease the number of free-roaming cats in a community humanely is by sterilizing them so that they can't reproduce. But you have to know where they are to be able to target those efforts. So this initiative is about using, again, data to guide where we focus our efforts rather than reacting case by case. We track colony locations so we know where cats are living and reproducing. We measure spay and neuter saturation to identify areas that are already being addressed versus those that are underserved. We monitor kitten hotspots, which help us anticipate seasonal surges and intervene earlier. We are in kitten season, the early stages of kitten season right now. Last year, as an organization, we took in 1,300 neonatal kittens, which means some were hours old, but all of them were under 2 pounds. And we identify those areas needing help and support, whether that's access to services, community education, or resources. The goal is simple. Target resources where they will have the greatest impact. This approach allows us to be more efficient, proactive, strategic, and ultimately reduce the population growth and shelter intake over time. That is our goal. Reduce shelter intake by all means that we have available to do so humanely and ethically. So this program is really, it's a heartwarming program. It's one of my favorite. This program is really about keeping pets in their homes, which is one of the most effective ways to reduce shelter intake. Through our Pet Pantry program, we provide food and basic supplies to families who are struggling, so they don't have to make the difficult decision to surrender their pets. Many of the people we serve are facing temporary hardship. A small amount of support can make the difference between keeping a pet or losing one. In just the first quarter in Carson City, we distributed almost 500 pounds of cat food and over 1,600 pounds of dog food. That represents hundreds of pets staying in their homes and out of the shelter. I can say as an organization, our 2 locations combined, last year in 2025, we distributed 210,000 pounds of cat food and dog food back out into our community to feed animals. Access to affordable veterinary care is a major barrier for many pet owners. At our Carson City campus, we provide low-cost spay and neuter, vaccinations, and microchips to keep pets healthy and in their homes. These are preventative services that reduce unwanted litters, improve return-to-owner rates, which we're very proud of already, and prevent more serious issues down the line. Ultimately, this helps reduce shelter intake and the overall strain on the system. I want to thank you for your time and your partnership. The work I've shared today is about more than sheltering. It's about keeping pets with families, reducing intake, and serving this community proactively. We're proud of the impact, and we're committed to continuing this work at a high level. To sustain it, we'll need a path forward that is realistic and adequately resourced. If Carson City determines it is not in a position to fund the actual cost of providing these services and believes a different operational model would serve this community better, we are open to discussing this transition. I'm happy to answer any additional questions.
Thank you. Does any member have a question they'd like?
I do.
Supervisor White?
Thank you. We'll start over. Good morning.
Good morning.
To the first question that I had, how many animals from outside Carson City do you deal with at this shelter?
Primarily, the animals in Carson City are coming from the Carson City and just outside lying areas. We do not bring in any animals from any outside areas if our capacity will not allow. We also transfer many Carson City animals to our Reno location. We transfer them there if they need more in-depth medical care. Maybe we don't have the equipment in Carson City, and we will transfer them to Reno for better visibility and a better chance at being adopted. So some animals go back and forth. The bulk of the animals in Carson City come from Carson City.
Okay. On your next slide there, your contracted revenues. Who else do you contract with besides Carson City?
We have no contract revenue with any other entity other than Carson City.
What are your actual expenditures in Carson City?
$2.2 million annually. So when we look at the contract revenue, we look at some revenue that we receive from fee for services that we provide, and we look at philanthropic revenue, we have a $600,000 gap. And that is what Nevada Humane Society has been subsidizing to Carson City. In a perfect world, there's plenty of resources and money to go everywhere. Unfortunately, we all know that the cost of supplies and housing and living and medical care and food for the animals has increased, and our philanthropic support has not been able to keep pace. So currently, that $600,000 that we are subsidizing that Nevada Humane Society is subsidizing to Carson City is coming from donors outside of this area. And that probably isn't what their intent is. And so it is very important that we figure this out. Nevada Humane Society, again, we want to do everything for everyone and everywhere, but we cannot. What we are not willing to do, and we're already running lean like most nonprofits. Every dollar counts, and we are good stewards of it. What we are not willing to do is cut corners where it would affect the quality of care to the animals we're responsible for, or the service we provide to a community. We're not willing to do that. What we can't continue to do moving forward is divert donor dollars to an area that those donors don't live in.
Okay. In regards to the number of animals that you see, you have one page here that says 166 adoptions, first quarter of 26. So that looks like, if that trend follows, you'll probably have 664 adoptions in Carson City. So do you see a seasonal influx?
We
Is there
do.
a change?
Yeah, we do. Quarter one is probably our lowest time for capacity in our shelter, which means less animals available for adoption, and so less getting adopted. That will ramp up as we enter more solidly into spring and summer, and even fall. Last year, I don't know if I have the adoption numbers in here for, 13 to 1,500 adoptions annually is what we're seeing. That's adoptions. That is not the total number of animals coming into our shelter that we provide care and support to, because many of those are animals that our officers are picking up as strays. They're coming in and they're spending any number of days with us before, for dogs that 73% of owners reclaim them, and for cats, that 34%. So the number of animals that are coming through our doors needing care and support is much more than that 13 to 1,500.
So looking at your seasonal adjustments, you think you're in that, like for instance, in 2025, 1,182 adoptions, you think you're trending about the same, or are we still declining as we have over the last 3 years?
It's hard to say. It's too early in the year, so I don't know.
Thank you.
Supervisor Horton.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Just a few quick questions. One for clarification here. In the contract on page 2, which is 202 of the board package, in the 9th recital, it says, NHS provides a service to the residents of the city for the welfare, safety, and protection of animals and citizens that the city would otherwise be required to expend money to provide. I assume that means that you provide services at no cost to some degree, that you absorb those costs. Is that correct?
To some degree, it varies. So if we are speaking about surrender fees, if someone needs to surrender an animal and they truly have no resources, no money to be able to pay that surrender fee, we will waive it. If someone is trying to get their animal back and they can't afford the reclaim fee, which is pretty reasonable, but it covers just barely the cost. Well, it doesn't actually cover the cost of caring for that animal each day, but it contributes towards it. If they can't, we are not going to keep their animal from them. We are going to let them have that animal. Same thing with our spay and neuter services that we provide. And then, of course, our pet food distribution.
So those are things that would not be included in this $150,000 based on that ninth recital that you would provide at no cost to the city?
Well, those are the things that we provide to the community. And what I'm sharing is this was signed in 2015. I've been with this organization 3 years this month. So current NHS leadership was not here. I can only make assumptions of why, because of why they thought maybe that they would be able to probably generate philanthropic support stronger than what we have seen happen. At the end of the day, these are all, everything we do at the shelter, there isn't anything we could cut out without providing substandard care to the animals. And yet we're doing it and subsidizing. And that's really the problem, is that 10 years ago, there was probably a whole different thought process. Today is today, and we have to come up with a solution.
Gotcha. Can you tell me what's the criteria for the low-income veterinary services, for example?
We don't have a process where we do income verification. We really have do our best to have conversations with our community members. And at the end of the day, we have to trust that if they are seeking help and they truly cannot afford it, then we don't want to turn them away. Well, what they will do is then surrender the animal. And then now we have the animal and we still need to provide the care for it and now find it a home. So it is minimal, the medical care or support that we're providing beyond spay and neuter, vaccinations, and microchipping to owned animals in our community. So it's pretty limited.
It doesn't appear to be limited based on, the full veterinary services that you provide.
Well, that's for
Which I
shelter
think is
animals.
great. That's
So
awesome.
for shelter animals, the majority of the time that our medical team spends on animals is for the animals that are in our care legally and that we are responsible for. We do surgeries for community cats that we charge a fee for, and that contributes to the revenue for Carson City. So if we didn't have that, it would be more than a $600,000 gap, right? So everything we charge for decreases the gap, the funding gap that we have. And then our veterinarians spend less than 20% of their time on spay and neuter for owned pets in the community. And of course, we charge for that too. That goes towards revenue for Carson City and stays in Carson City. And we do that as part of a shelter diversion process to keep pets from reproducing, therefore keeping shelter intake down and hopefully trending it down.
Sure, makes sense. I just have a little bit of a concern about competing with the other veterinary operations in the city and us subsidizing that competition.
Yeah,
Feels
and I know that Lisa Schutte could probably provide some information on that herself. What I will say is that most private veterinarians, there's been many studies that have been done in animal welfare about this very topic because, of course, that is a concern. I think two main points to bring up is that most general practitioners, their bread and butter is not spay and neuter. They don't want to do an excessive amount of spay and neuters. It doesn't generate that much for them, and it's hard work, right? Not that they're afraid of that. There's just other things that they do, right? The cost to have an animal spayed or neutered has increased dramatically over the last 10 years. And I don't know if anyone here has gone to a private veterinarian to have your animal spayed or neutered, but if I took in a 50-pound female dog in relatively good health to be spayed, it wouldn't be unreasonable for it to cost $1,000, $800 to $1,000. Many people cannot afford that. So those aren't the private practitioners' clients anyways, the ones that would be coming to us.
Thank you.
Supervisor Schutte.
Thank you. Thank you for what you do. And NHS is appreciated.
Thank you.
Can you speak a little bit to really the costs of caring for animals in the shelter?
Those of us in my field would love to have a magic exact number because it's a conversation that we have routinely, and different shelters have different models and they have different ways that they calculate that. It is very difficult because we might get in a 12-week-old puppy that is healthy, and we provide it with its series of vaccinations before it's adopted. We spay or neuter it, we microchip it, we care for it but it's adopted very quickly. So the investment from Nevada Humane Society is relatively low for that puppy. And there's an adoption fee, and adoption fees for puppies are generally a little higher. What we see often is the 6-year-old to 14-year-old pet that comes in that hasn't received the medical care it is needed over its lifetime. Maybe that is one of the reasons it is being surrendered. It needs more medical interventions. Our community in animal welfare has very much changed over, and I'll circle back around, but has changed over the last 2 to 3 decades. The expectation from our community on what we will provide for animals in our care is very different than it was 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and longer. From staff that work in our field, their expectations are different than staff that were working in this field 20 years ago, and certainly those of us in this industry. So maybe 20 years ago or 25 years ago when an animal came in and it had a great temperament, lovely animal, would really bring joy to someone's life, but it had a chronic knee issue or needed an amputation, that animal may be euthanized then. And we're not going to euthanize that animal today within reason if they have a reasonable chance at quality of life. So Lisa, to your point, to your question, it's hard to say. As an organization, we take in 10,000 animals a year. About 20% of those animals are here in Carson City. It is everything from animals that don't need a whole lot that are adopted quickly, and then animals that stay with us longer, have a longer length of stay, and require more, not just daily care, but more from us. If we average what it costs us to run as an organization, and we divide that by the number of animals that come in and leave, it's about $600 an animal. But it varies. It could be $200 and it could be $2,000 on each end of the spectrum.
And those are for animals that are adopted. So then there are the strays. And can you speak to some of the costs associated with stray animals?
Sure, absolutely. There is a cost to that. Everything from someone answering that first call that comes in from the community that there's an animal at large, to all the steps that it takes to, paperwork, right? We have software programs that handle this, to getting our officer in the vehicle and out to find that animal. And I'm not sure the cost of gas now in Carson is $5 a gallon, right? So our officers put a lot of miles on their vehicles. And so then the officer goes out. Sometimes we have to send 2, depending on the situation and the animal, for safety's sake, for both the officer, the community, and the animal. Bringing that animal intaking that animal, because all animals get an exam and they have to be vaccinated upon intake to the shelter. We don't know their vaccination history. They may have received a vaccination a week ago, but to keep our shelter population safe, we have to vaccinate. And then that animal is provided housing and care while we are hoping to have an owner surface to come find them. And so I don't know that I have an exact, I'm going to look and see if we as an organization have done any studies on the cost of daily care for stray animals, not the animals that stay beyond their stray time and then are placed up for adoption. We, of course, are responsible for the whole spectrum of it.
I think you bring up a good point, though, in terms of when you receive a phone call or several phone calls regarding an animal or animals running at large, and not only the staff at the desk, but then the humane enforcement officer going out. And I know when I've seen dogs in the street, it also creates a traffic
Oh, for sure,
hazard.
yeah.
And so people are stopped and folks are running around. And so it really is helpful to have the enforcement, the humane enforcement officers.
Thank you.
In terms of the medical, the spay neuters that are provided, and you said that the majority are for the shelter animals.
Well, yes.
So-
Of those 1,300 to 1,500 adoptions, the vast majority of those animals will not have already been spayed and neutered. It just happens like that. Some of them will have been. But the time that we have one full-time veterinarian here in Carson City, one licensed vet tech, and 2 veterinary assistants. Their time is not just spent on surgery and spay and neuter. It is examinations. The animal care staff will alert them to a problem that one of the animals is having. They spend the majority of their time making sure that the animals in our care, because we are legally responsible for those animals, are receiving the basic care that they need. And then, of course, spay and neuter and beyond for the shelter animals, they might need an enucleation, which is an eye removal, an amputation. They might have some sort of an illness that isn't easily identifiable on the surface. And of course, the animals can't speak. So our medical team has to investigate that. So they are kept very busy. It is a small team, but it is adequate for the population in our Carson City shelter.
Can you speak a little bit to some of the medical costs within shelters for just the basic disease control, or like, feline respiratory infections, that kind of thing, and some of those concerns and costs?
Oh, goodness. I wish I had
You
those
don't- I
numbers
don't
in front of me.
No, and it's fine.
We
but
have
just
all
to-
of that. I just didn't come today with that.
But
Yes.
just a
It's-
general,
it's-
let me
yes.
back up. Is there a cost?
It's significant.
Okay.
It is significant, yes.
And so if animals weren't treated, what could some of the consequences be?
Well, if the animals aren't treated and their quality of life is poor, going untreated, euthanasia is typically the option at shelters. And I'm not sure that this community has come a long ways in its life-saving abilities for animals. Our live release rate, as we refer to it in the industry, here in Carson City is about 96%. And that 4% of animals that do not leave our shelter alive are not just animals that were euthanized, though many of those were those neonatal kittens that we call it failing to thrive. No matter what we did, they couldn't survive. Or animals that were displaying unsafe behavior for our community. We can't responsibly put them back out in our community. Or animals that do have medical issues that, even if treated, our medical staff believe that they wouldn't have a reasonable chance at a good quality of life, pain-free. So that is that 4%, 4 to 5% of animals that don't go on beyond the shelter to be adopted. And so, yeah, the cost is significant. So it would mean, if we weren't providing medical care, it would be excessive euthanasia. Nevada Humane Society wouldn't support that, but some communities do. Or it would be suffering of animals, and again, that isn't, Nevada Humane Society, that's an area that that we just can't, we wouldn't be able to support. Yeah.
Thank you.
But I want to also be very clear that sometimes a non-live outcome is the right outcome for that animal. So it isn't that we save them at all costs. That is not our philosophy, is that if we can provide that medical or behavioral intervention so that they have that quality of life, it is reasonable, and we believe that they are reasonably safe in our community, those are the animals we help and we place up for adoption.
Thank you. I want to say I appreciate what you do with the community cats, and I know that there's some misunderstanding in terms of the best way to manage numbers. I used to work with Humane Network, and I was the outreach manager for the small communities.
I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, the Panakas, and I remember speaking to someone in Eureka, and the philosophy was to kill the community cats, and it had been kind of for years.
Yes.
And yet the problem still existed, and you can't kill your way out of it. If we could, we would have.
Yes, that is.
And the problem with killing is that there's still a food source, and then the other litters are more robust, and other cats come in. And so I really appreciate the efforts to do the TNR, the trap, neuter, return, in that it does keep the colony small and it gets smaller. It also reduces the spread of disease. And so I want to applaud you for that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So you bring up a very good point. There has been a number of studies that have been done in the animal welfare field over, the last couple decades about this very topic. Eradication. Some thought that, you just trap them all and you bring them into shelters. Healthy cats that are otherwise healthy, providing rodent control, you bring them in, you euthanize them. It didn't decrease the numbers. It's called vacuum effect, and you could really geek out on this, and there's a lot to it, but scientifically, it has never proven to work when communities think that they're just going to trap the animals and euthanize them, because you can't get enough before they're still reproducing. And it is food supply, and they just reproduce. And so the only effective and humane way, but really effective way to reduce numbers of free roaming cats in a community is to sterilize them. And while we have been doing that for years, we have re-energized our efforts to be smarter about it and to be more targeted.
Thank you. Well, I do not believe that Carson City can provide the services that you provide for the costs that you provide it for, even with the increased amount. And so I support the best practices, and I support your efforts and the benefit to our community. And so I appreciate your time, and thank you for asking or answering some tough questions.
I'm always happy to. We collect a lot of data in our organization, and doesn't necessarily mean I have it stored up here everywhere I go, and I may not have it with me, but I can't imagine a question regarding our numbers, our percentages, our funding, live outcomes or not, that I couldn't get that information for you.
Thank you. And actually, I have one more quick question while I thought about it. You mentioned reducing shelter intake and the overall strain on the system. Can you just speak to that a little bit? What do you mean by that?
In a community where we have a contract to accept all publicly surrendered animals and be responsible for animals at large, it can be very challenging when we have a finite amount of space. Oftentimes, especially in the summer, we will find ourselves with not a single empty kennel or cage, and that is not a good way for an animal shelter to operate. Thankfully, because we have another campus in Reno, we are able to release some of that pressure from Carson City and send those animals to Reno. If we didn't have that ability, we would have to probably make very difficult choices. And because space is space, and you can't hoard animals. Some shelters do that because they don't know, or they're not experienced in our field. They really don't know the impact that is having to the other animals and the staff. It is very, like many industries, I'm not going to say that animal welfare is the only one, but it is emotionally challenging for our team, for our staff. We are a nonprofit. They do not make, I would say many of them, even a reasonable wage. It is what we can afford to pay, and it is hard, hard work. And it is emotionally draining. While yes, there are so many happy stories, the ones that stick with you at the end of the day are the ones that are not the happy ones. And sometimes it is very difficult to stay in this field. So the more animals we have, the more care they need, the more we are asking from our team and not compensating them likewise for it. It's challenging for them, and it creates a strain. It creates a strain physically, our space, and emotionally, and taxing for our employees.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to go to Supervisor Giomi, and then we're going to take public comment so we can move this agenda item along. Supervisor Giomi?
Yeah, would you mind putting that slide back up with the money? Just had a couple of questions about that.
Sure.
I know it's quite a ways back, I'm sorry.
First.
Probably the early slide.
I'm clicking.
Thank you.
Yeah.
On that slide, sorry, I have to change my, oh, thank you.
Yeah.
This is, as a whole, this is not Carson City, right? I think that's important to state that.
Yes.
And what communities do you serve? What does this budget represent?
Yeah.
Which communities are
Primarily Washoe County and Carson City. So, but I want to say that so in Reno specifically, because we have, the campus there is quite large and we have more staff. During times where we have capacity, in other words, our animal population is lower, we'll see that during the winter time and early spring, we will reach out to other areas, under-resourced shelters, ones that don't have a large adoption base, that have very limited kennels or staff, and we will offer to help them by bringing some animals in. Again, that typically happens in Reno. So I guess you could say we're serving those communities, but our primary communities that we serve are Washoe County and Carson City.
Okay. You mentioned earlier that the 917-166-76 represents the contractual amount from the city, which is 842. Is the difference between that 917 and 842, does that represent your only income in Carson City? So I'm wondering how you depicted that there as contract.
Sure.
So there's more revenue that you bring in other than that.
Yes, and it is reflected there. And when I'm happy to share that, when I met with Mayor Bagwell and Carson City CFO, I provided all those numbers. So the contractual revenue, one of my team put this slide together, and she combined the contract from Carson City and the revenue from animal surrenders in Carson City. And the fees. So their fees and the reclaim fees. She lumped that into that number. Clinic revenue for Carson City is included in here under clinic.
17?
No, in the gray, the clinic revenue is
Okay.
included in there. Retail, we don't do retail in Carson City, so that won't. Adoption, adoption and surrender fees, that is the green area, and then philanthropic revenue. So from donors, foundations, community foundations, that's the big chunk in dark blue.
At one point, you mentioned the total expenditure, there's a deficit about 600,000. And you said that number was 2.2 million expended in Carson. So that deficit is more than 600,000, so I'm confused by that. The revenue from the city is 842.
Because some of those clinic fees are contributing, adoption fees are contributing. We're looking at,
It isn't 2.2 then.
no, I didn't say the deficit was 2.2. Our budget, our operating budget is 2.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, so the deficit is the difference between all of the income from Carson.
Yes.
And, okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Including people that donate. We
Yes.
do have Carson
Yes,
City
correct.
donors.
We do.
Got that.
And it was the
Understood.
166,000.
Understood.
Right.
Go ahead. Did you have a comment?
I do want to share that, again, I wasn't here 11 years ago at the very beginning of these conversations, and I know that it can be challenging because maybe there was thoughts then that, and the realities, the community is not the same. I don't have to tell you all that it was 11 years ago. At the time the contract was initiated in 2015, the contract amount was 700,000. There is wording in the contract for an up to 5% a year increase. I don't know the reason why, but that hasn't happened consistently year over year. I don't know if that was because
CPI.
we didn't, but I don't know that that's
request
it.
it.
I don't know that. I hate to say that I think it was previous Nevada Humane Society leadership that didn't request it.
Correct.
Yep.
So if previous leadership had requested that each year, this year, 2026, the contract amount would be $1,257,000. We would be 400,000. We'd be 2/3 of the way to that 600,000 right now. But again, for whatever reasons, that didn't happen. So that was money that Carson City got to keep.
I think the struggle for me is the number one, ensuring that the taxpayer dollars that we're charged with being the fiduciary to are spent for our citizens. So
Oh,
I
for
just,
sure.
I don't think you charge for Lyon or Douglas County, charge differently for out-of-county animals. I certainly would support you doing that. Our citizens shouldn't be supporting. I'm not so naive to think that someone, though, in one of those counties can't just drive here and drop the dog off and let it be a stray. I get that. So
Yes.
there's a little bit of that. I get that. And you don't want to charge so much that it encourages people to do that. I
That
understand that.
happens,
I'm not
yes.
that naive, but I'm just going through in my mind, sharing with you what is going through my mind.
Yeah.
I think the other issue is that and Lori and I were the last two board members who signed this in 2019, in November of 2019. I'd like to think I'm a better legislator now than I was then, because it was my first year.
We get smarter.
But and I think I would have, as you said, things change. And I think the fact that over those years, those changes haven't been discussed with the body that's funding you is the challenge that we're facing, because we haven't had a say in whether what you're doing is what we want you to do, or what our community wants you to do. And I'm not saying it isn't.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that discussion hasn't happened. I think we should not wait another 3 years or 4 years or 7 years, or I think it might be the only presentation I've had since I've been on the board. Maybe there was one other.
There was.
That can't continue. It's not beneficial to your organization or to our community, because we're not getting the full picture. So I
Can
guess I'm.
I want to say that I, just so I don't want to interrupt you, but I want to say that I absolutely agree with you. What you're saying is very reasonable. If I was in your seat, I would say the same thing, and I would want that same information. I came to Nevada Humane Society at a time, this organization will be 95 years old next year. And like many organizations of that age, there's been peaks and valleys, highs and lows. I came to Nevada Humane Society at a time where this organization was struggling and there was a lot to fix. I've been in animal welfare for quite a while. I thought I had retired. And so I agreed to come in temporarily to help this organization because I care about the field that we're in and the animals and the caregivers that are helping them. I thought I was only going to come in for a short period of time. Clearly that didn't happen and I'm still here. But I recognized right away that we had an issue with our Carson City contract. There was an imbalance of what we were providing versus the funding that we were receiving to cover that.
There's also a lack of specificity.
Exactly.
On what you should be providing.
Absolutely. And while I wish that it would have been at the top of my priority list, I had even bigger burning fires that had to be addressed. Now we're here, and I think this is an important conversation to have because Carson City should weigh in about the services they want to provide. I want to be very clear that Nevada Humane Society may not be the organization to provide decreased services and programs ethically for us in this field. But I absolutely agree that the city should have a seat at the table to determine what you want to pay for versus what you don't. And just for the sake of being redundant, I want to reiterate again that there is no fluff in this budget. I mean, none. We run that 2.2 million. It's only not more because, like our CFO, we don't have a full-time CFO in Carson City. 20% of her time is allocated to Carson City. But if I didn't have a larger organization where I could have a CFO in Reno, I'd have to have a CFO in Carson City. The same with HR, the same with IT, the same with behavior and transfer, our volunteer program, and the list goes on. And then my last point, because you do make a good point about any animals that we help outside of the area, the numbers are small. And while I don't have an exact dollar figure for you, I will say that while we may be helping some of those animals, the cost savings to Carson City for the animals we transfer to Reno far outweighs the expense for any animals that we help in Carson City, not in Carson City.
So in your mind, it is less than an insignificant amount. I mean, it's
Very much so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I appreciate that opinion.
Thank you. Okay. I'm going to take public comment. If I have any public comment on this item. Okay, then I'll bring it back up here for, does anyone want to try a motion? I see Lisa ready, or I see Stacy, and we can have discussion on motion. Or you have something you want to say first?
I'm going to try one.
Okay.
Before you do that motion, could I make a recommendation?
Absolutely.
In the beginning of the motion where it says city staff will work with them, could you include the city manager and the health director would work with them?
That is
Specify
staff.
the city staff. I know, but I want to make them do it.
There isn't anyone, well, that's fine. There's no one else that would do it.
Just a thought. You don't have to.
Okay, go ahead.
I may say at the city manager's direction, because then it's his, I mean, the way I feel, it's his staff to.
Can I add just one more thing? Originally, when I met with Mayor Bagwell and Carson City staff, the CFO, and we were going over the Carson City budget and the shortfall, I shared that it was in black and white. It is $600,000. It has been varying degrees of that over the years, but Nevada Humane Society has contributed in the millions of dollars to Carson City and the services and the residents here in Carson City. So when I shared $600,000, Mayor Bagwell, the first thing she said is, well, that's not going to happen. It's impossible, $600,000. And I understand that because I also understand that Nevada Humane Society wasn't forward-facing with you all and having these conversations. Mayor asked, what would it take? What do you need? And I shared, we need half and a plan to bridge that in phases, or somehow a plan to bridge that rest of it. I appreciate that $150,000 is being considered. I sincerely appreciate it, but I also want to be very candid to say that while I can't sit up here, I was going to say stand, and speak for my board of directors, I can tell you that they have a fiduciary responsibility to the organization as well, and they are very concerned about continuing to cover the shortfall and very realistic about not being able to do it, continuing to do that.
Okay, so,
Just make the motion.
okay. I'm still playing with it in my head. So I move to authorize city staff at the direction of the city managers to negotiate a contract amendment to increase Nevada Humane Society's annual compensation by $150,000 and to return at a later date with a proposed written contract amendment for this board's consideration that would include defined service levels. Additionally, I direct staff to, in the next year, conduct an analysis on the city's assumption of animal control services.
Discussion.
On discussion, Supervisor White.
Thank you. I don't think it's any secret to anybody around here that I'm adamantly opposed to the TNR program. It is illegal, and it does not fit the contract that we already have in place. I find it quite disturbing that this letter that was provided to us in Bullet 5, that this operation intends to align with nationally recognized animal welfare standards. Those standards are contrary to what this contract says to do 19 times, requiring the NRS and Carson City Municipal Code be enforced. And that is not hoarding animals. The way to address that is you eliminate the food source. You enforce the codes and the NRS that require people not to do that. Now, why don't we have wild packs of dogs roving this town? That's because we go after the people that start hoarding dogs. I would suggest that the idea that we simply can't catch all of these wild cats is nonsense. I will remind this room that beavers, wolves, and bison were all trapped and hunted to near extinction. You're not going to get me to accept that you can't catch some cats.
Can I ask you a question, Supervisor White?
No, no, sorry. We're on motion and discussion. Sorry. Okay, that was just his comment before he votes.
Okay.
I think. Is that it? Just want to make sure. Okay.
Thank you.
I don't see anyone else with a hand up on the motion. So on motion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say no.
No.
Let the record reflect that Supervisor White was the no vote. As a side comment, I will indicate that when staff is looking at the contract for amendment, that the district attorney's office can ensure that the legality of the contract and what we're doing is in keeping, so that you can review at least what Supervisor White is discussing.
And can I just add one
Thank
more
you.
comment regarding the board of directors? I know initially there was discussion about people from Carson, and I know Sheriff Furlong served on the board, and I would really love to have a representative or two from Carson City on the board.
Can I comment? No?
She's just making that comment, so we're gonna close this item because we are like 40 minutes behind on the agenda, so we're gonna close this item for now, but thank you very much, and staff will be in contact.
Thank you all very much.
Okay, we're gonna move on to agenda item 15A. And this is discussion and possible action regarding an application from Dina, oh boy, Schnursterbusch, sorry if I got that kind of wrong, of Loomis and Associates, dealing with an abandonment. Heather, did you have some highlights for us, or I think we've know about this one mostly, but go ahead.
Yes, good morning, Heather Manzo for the record. So I did have a presentation that I'll just pop open really quick for a visual representation of where the abandonment's located. But essentially, St. Teresa has a budding property next to the abandonment area. So there's the abandonment area on the outside knuckle of that curve executive point in Commerce. They have property that's located adjacent to that abandonment area and are requesting abandonment of the space to encompass into their parcel to support an upcoming project that they have proposed at that location.
Does any member have any questions on this item? Pretty straightforward one. Okay, is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none, I'll bring it back up here then for a motion. Supervisor White?
Thank you. I move to approve the abandonment as presented.
Second?
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect that was unanimous. Thank you so much. Our next item is 15B, discussion and possible action to introduce on a first reading a proposed ordinance. Mr. Hone, may I have the title, please?
Bill number 105, an ordinance relating to zoning, changing the zoning from limited industrial to public on a 13.91 acre parcel located at 3000 North Lampa Lane, assessor parcel number 008-922-31, and providing other matters properly relating thereto.
Thank you so much. Do you have some highlights for this one?
Yeah, very brief highlight. This is the same parcel that we were speaking of just a moment ago. And this zone change will bring the site into conformance with the master plan designation of public, quasi-public.
Does any member have any questions? No, is there any public comment on this item? Bring it back up here. Supervisor Schutte, a motion, please.
I move to introduce on first reading Bill number 105.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for approval. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect it was unanimous. Okay, we're now on to agenda item 15C. This one's on discussion and possible action on a request from Ortiz Brothers Aviation concerning a tentative subdivision map. Ms. Manzo, this one for us?
Yes, so this site is located on the airport property, and what the request is a commercial condo subdivision. A commercial condo is essentially the airspace is what is being subdivided. The overall land is still encompassed within the airport property. So the request is for 4 parcels and a remainder common area parcel to support development of hangars at the site.
Thank you so much. Does any member have any questions? Don't see any. We've talked about this one before too over time. Is there any public comment on this item? Okay, seeing none. Supervisor Horton, you serve on the Airport Authority. Would you like the honor of this motion?
Sure. I move to approve sub 2026-0029 based on the ability to make the required tentative subdivision map findings and subject to the conditions of approval included in the staff report.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for approval. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect it was unanimous. Thank you. We can't wait to see this project. Okay, we're now on to agenda item 16A, and this is a discussion only on our Open Space Advisory Committee report. Ms. Boyer and Mr. Berggren, please do not read the report to us. It is long, it is lengthy, it is wonderful information that the public should use all year long. What a fantastic job. But did you want to hit some highlights for us? Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. For the record, Lindsay Boyer, Open Space Manager. I was aware that, yes, it was 25 pages, so I just plan to hit some highlights. Just a quick reminder for the public, Open Space manages over 7,000 acres of undeveloped natural areas like agricultural lands, hillsides, and 11 miles of the Carson River corridor. We have just 7 full-time staff and 2 part-time staff, so I always say we're a small but mighty team. And we're funded directly from the Question 18 Quality of Life Initiative that was passed in '96, which we're celebrating the 30th anniversary this year. So just a few projects that I wanted to highlight, some really big things that we accomplished in 2025. One was the major strides we made towards water rights acquisition at Buzzy's Ranch. You guys all know that I have been working on that project for a very long time. 2025 was spent pretty much getting everything into a place with appraisals and agreements, and then we executed those in early 2026. And we have just one more acquisition to go, which is very exciting. We also built the Prison Hill Trail West, which was a Southern Nevada Public Lands Management Act funded project, a $2.4 million grant. We completely renovated the Coons Lane Trailhead, and we built a 2.5 mile accessible trail along the west side of Prison Hill. The project turned out amazing. We see tons of people on that trail and at that trailhead now, and it's just amazing to see folks of all ages and abilities using the trail. A couple other capital projects. We installed a vault toilet at the Prison Hill OHV area. We completed the Mexican Dam Portage project, which allows boaters to safely navigate around the dam. And we also made major strides on the design for the Riverview Trailhead renovation project, which is another $2.3 million grant from SNPLMA. We have a bunch of trail projects that we accomplished, so I did want to invite Greg to tell you about those.
Great.
So for the record, thank you, Lindsay. For the record, Greg Berggren, Trails Coordinator. I know we're short on time, so I'll go through this rather quickly, but 2025 was kind of a big year for trails in Carson City, and in addition to the projects that Lindsay previously mentioned, we used recreational trails program funding to complete some repairs and essentially rebrand 6 segments of trail along the Carson River into one continuous accessible trail from Morgan Mill to the Mexican Dam, and that is the Carson River Trail. It has its own logo. And one of the segments of that trail, the Buzzy's Ranch segment, we're proud to say is in Audubon's Birdability, which is a website that is committed to making birding community and the outdoors accessible, safe, and welcoming and inclusive for everybody and everybody. In addition to that, Muscle Powered, our volunteer organization that helps with trails, has been very busy on 2 fronts. They've been working on trail projects on Sea Hill that are much needed, and then also working on Prison Hill, continuing the Odyssey Trail, which is becoming a local favorite. We have an active Adopt a Trail program, and one of our adopters, who is also a contractor, did a much-needed repair to the Sea Hill FEMA Trail, and we were really happy to get that done this year, or last year. Last year we made updates to some of our maps, a new Prison Hill trail map and a Carson River trail map, and those are both online, downloadable for anybody to use. An update on the Ash Canyon Trailhead, so that is going to be part of a federal land access program grant, which is the lead on that is Public Works Transportation Division, but Open Space is following that closely so we can get a much-needed trailhead in the Ash Canyon area.
You know where that is, Greg? I was going to ask you what the status of that is. Have you heard anything recently?
So, yeah, we continue talking with the with Central Federal Lands on that, and right now the plan is to go to bid for construction in the fall of '27.
Oh, wow, that far out.
Still that far out. Yeah, the wheels of federal government move slowly.
No, I know.
So, yeah.
I know. I was hoping they wouldn't turn Stone Age slow. But
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah. Lastly, a few months ago, the board approved the application to Recreational Trails Program for funding of a Phase 1 of the Centennial Regional Trails Project. I'm happy to say that we did receive that funding, and so in the next year, we will. This moves quicker than some of the other projects. So in the next year we'll see that project moving forward. I also wanted to mention while I'm here that the American Discovery Trail, which is a 6,800-mile trail that links our nation coast to coast. It's made up of paved roads, dirt roads, and trails. The official route actually travels through the very, very northern portion of Carson City. To celebrate our nation's 250th, the American Discovery Trail 250 Relay will begin at the Golden Gate Bridge on July 1st rather, and it will come through Carson City. And I'm happy to say that they are going to come down our Capital to Tahoe Trail to Carson City, and they will be arriving in Carson City on July 16th. They're going to spend an extra day here. They'll be departing on July 18th, but we are planning to have a media event on the steps of the Capitol during that time when they're here. I don't know exactly when that's going to be, but I will keep you all up to date and let you know so you can participate in that. And we're excited that they're going to be coming through Carson City. So with that, I will turn it back to Lindsay.
Greg, where does that trail run in the north end of Carson? Is it part of the Centennial Trail that you're looking to work on, or?
So that's a good question. So right now it comes down Lakeview Road and then it crosses northern or southern Washoe Valley and kind of goes up near the old Flume Trail and then into Virginia City and continues out east across Nevada. So we are hoping that in the future we can get them to realign that a little bit to keep the Capital to Tahoe Trail as a permanent part of that trail, and then also use our upcoming Centennial Trails project as connections to Virginia City. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. So in addition to those capital projects and our trails projects, we're also responsible for a lot of land management activities. So I just wanted to give you a snapshot of kind of the diversity of projects that our staff work on. We have the annual sheep project every year to reduce fuels on the west side. We've been very busy working on restoration projects throughout open space to try to restore native plant communities. We do extensive vegetation and wildlife monitoring to make sure that our populations are successful. We have tons of maintenance responsibilities like invasive species control, hazard tree removal, and maintenance of the Mexican ditch. So we're busy, on those day-to-day activities, taking care of these lands as well. We also were involved in a lot of activities and events last year. We have been working to update the Carson River Master Plan. That plan is 30 years old this year, and so 2025 was a busy year. We had tons of outreach with stakeholders and the public, and we're working on writing the draft plan right now. We held the first ever Pollinator Palooza, an event which was near and dear to my heart, a very successful celebration and education on pollinators. We had 2 hikers successfully complete the Capital to Canada quest, a 1,600-mile journey from the steps of the Capitol all the way to Canada, which was just an amazing use of that Capital to Tahoe Trail that Greg mentioned. Our staff do tons of education and outreach events with students, with schools, with the public, teaching about river health, wildlife, native plants, and more. And then I wanted to just end on our volunteer program, which has become very successful. In 2025, we had over 40 volunteer programs throughout the whole department. That was just under 4,000 hours from our volunteers. an estimated dollar value of about $140,000, which is just incredible. And they worked on everything from restoration to trash cleanup to protecting our cottonwoods, assisting with our monitoring and more. So I just wanted to close by saying that I have an amazing team. They are very dedicated. They are very passionate. They accomplish so much each year. I'm very proud of them. And I just wanted to say on record what an amazing job they do. So with that, we will take any questions.
Thank you. I think we all just want to, yeah, that's a good answer. We just really all want to say thank you to the staff and the public that cares so much about these properties, and they show it by their volunteerism. So what just a great mix, right, between community and the city. But again, thank your staff of mighty few, but they do great work. Thank you. And I do encourage, again, the public to go online and read the full report, because it's, what's our word of the day? Hunky? A hunk? A chunk hunk? I don't know which it is, but there's a chunk of information there.
It was inappropriate.
Okay, so thank you so very much.
I matter.
Okay. Yeah, there you go. That's true, right? We're going to move on
Fortunately,
then
I'm just
to.
chunky. I'm not hunky.
Oh, gosh. I shouldn't have said anything. Okay, we're going to move on to agenda item 16C, which is the acceptance. That is a great word. Now that we have hunky and chunky and acceptance going on around here. So this is about our SNPLA grant for Mills Park. Lindsay, is there any actual highlight that you want to draw to our attention? Thank you.
Lindsay Boyer, Open Space Manager, for the record. So this is to accept the $14 million that we are being awarded from SNPLA to completely renovate Mills Park. Almost 15, yep. We're very excited. We're very proud. This is by far the largest grant ever received by our department. There are a million wonderful things that are going to happen to the park. Just for transparency, I did want to note that there were some clerical errors identified. Thank you, Madam Mayor, for your keen eye. So just to put on the record, essentially this is related to the contribution of staff time. So SNPLA requires that staff in advance of the project try to identify how much time might be spent through the 5 years that we'll be implementing the project. And it's just an estimation. It may come in higher, it may come in lower. It's a way to demonstrate that Carson City is committed to this project, and we want to ensure that it's successful. We have made SNPLA aware of those clerical errors. If they decide they want to modify that, we can certainly bring an agreement back before you for reapproval. But I just did want to note that on the
Or we can
record.
include it in the motion, that if there's just a correction for those
Sure.
typos, that I can sign it again.
Yeah.
You don't have to bring it back. Okay. Thank you. Supervisor White has a question.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, so we put that whole master plan together with a lot of input from the community and staff and all of that. Did the whole thing mesh well with SNPLA, or did they have some concerns we had to leave out? Did the whole thing get in?
Great question, Lindsay Boyer, for the record. So Jen Budge is also here today, and she can help answer the question. But just having worked on the grant, I believe almost everything that was in that master plan did make it in. There were a couple restrooms, I believe, that are being funded separately through ARPA funds. So those obviously weren't included because they were funded elsewhere, but I believe all the other project elements did make it in.
So the community can expect that what they saw on the boards and all of that, that's what we're going to do.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Love it.
I know. Okay. Supervisor Giomi?
Yeah, I just want to thank you guys and staff and the public for the input. It gives a lot of work that the Planning Commission put together. So thanks to Lisa and all of the public who provided input. It is their park. And you guys are just going to bring it to life. So congrats. Big deal.
Okay. Is there any public comment on this item? Mr. French.
Denny French, I won't go into why I disagree with the total plan, but I am opposed and I would like it to be on the record, whether it's called a path, a driveway, or a road. I feel that that will disrupt the nature of the park, and I think it was unnecessary as access is available to the whole park with the vehicles they have available. But I do appreciate all the work that was put into it, and the community did make their input. I'm making mine. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'll bring it back up here for a motion. Supervisor Shooty, and if you want to include that I can sign an amendment necessary for any of the technical errors in the personnel arena.
Okay, I'll try.
Okay.
I move to accept the award and approve the cooperative agreement with the understanding that if an amendment needs to be signed, it can be without needing to come back before the board.
Good enough.
Good enough.
An enthusiastic second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect it was unanimous. And the goal is less than 5 years. Just because they gave us 5 don't mean we have to take that long. So we can't wait to see this. Thank you for your hard work on that.
Faster than William Street.
We're going to move on now to agenda item.
Held her fingers up. You want to put that on the record, Jen?
Yeah,
There it is.
3 years.
Okay, 3 years.
Let's
yay.
go. I
Thank
like
you.
it.
I love it.
Okay, we're going to go to agenda item 16D. This is approval of an amendment 1 to the programmatic agreement between the Sierra Front Field Office of BLM, the Nevada State Historic Preservation Office, on the conveyance of some prior 5,452 acres. And so we're going to try to do an amendment here that everyone's agreed to. Ms. Boyer, is there a highlight other than it's to effectuate maintenance quicker than 3 years? No. Go ahead.
Yeah, Lindsay Boyer for the record. So this programmatic agreement was put into place to make sure cultural resources were protected on those federal lands that were conveyed to Carson City. But it did have a very limiting kind of language. It required full Section 106, which for those of you who don't know, it's a very time-consuming and costly process for something as simple as just routine maintenance, sign installation, fence repair. It made it very challenging for staff to be nimble and respond to maintenance needs on those lands conveyed from the federal government. So we've been working on this project for 4 years. You may have recalled it coming before you 2 years ago. We, at that time, had some additional edits come in, and then we had kind of the perfect storm. SHPO had a leadership change, so we kind of had to start all over a little bit, get them up to speed. But we have come together. The PA before you has gone through, oh gosh, like more revisions than you can count. So we're excited. We think that this is really going to allow us to streamline the process and be more efficient. Of course, if there's a big undertaking, we'll still go through that Section 106. So it's really maintenance focused for sure. So yeah, we're very excited to get this in place. I do have our cultural resource consultant here if there are any technical questions. But with that, yeah, we'll take any questions.
I don't see any questions, so I will go to, is there any public comment? We had some earlier this morning from Mr. Drews at the front end of the meeting, but is there anybody else? Okay, Supervisor Horton, your motion, please.
I move to approve the Amendment 1 to the programmatic agreement as presented.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect it was unanimous. Thank you so much. We're now on to our non-action items under Agenda 17. Does anyone have anything to share? It was a quiet 2 weeks. Well, happy May. Okay, then we will go on to our final public comment, which I did not, come on up. There you go.
Hi, my name is Ronan Ripke. I'm a student at Western Nevada College, and I come before you today to bring forth the topic of trash cleanup awareness. Myself and 2 other members form the advocacy group Trash Boulder Discourse for the issue of litter within Carson City and a lack of curbside recycling within Carson Valley. To improve litter conditions, I would like to see increased endorsement to the Carson City Parks, Recreation, and Open Spaces volunteer programs. My background with the department is as a seasonal park ambassador and volunteering at previous park-specific events. Whether it's regular volunteership, special cleanup events, or public infrastructure, prolonged efforts are necessary for community well-being. In discussion with students at WNC and park goers, we noticed that few within our community are aware of resources such as the CCPRS newsletter and volunteer opportunities page on the Carson City government website. The monthly digital newsletter from Carson City Parks and Rec directs towards a range of community opportunities, including several pages on trash cleanup. Without strong acknowledgments of these resources, the Park Ambassador Program, the Adopt a Spot, and Adopt a Trail programs receive lower participation and result in reduced litter cleanup efforts. Though we already have so many extraordinary members of the community that volunteer, we can always aim for greater impact. I would like to ask the board to consider the approval of temporary signage and campaign banners for an available 2-week period within the summer 2026 season that promote the CCPRS newsletter and our amazing volunteer programs. Items such as campaign banners within the downtown and signage within parks are capable of informing the public of how the issue of litter is being managed and how they can actively take part. I believe that a campaign recognizing the Park and Rec services will counteract this issue of, as the summer season approaches, outdoor activity will increase and lead to a subsequent increase in litter. With the board's of supervisors' approval, I believe that we can increase public awareness and a positive shift in even greater cleanup participation. A campaign like this would be able to establish and continue in a phase where contributions can be made by the Parks Department. These contributions would include feedback and further structuring a plan to update the board with and facilitation. Litter is overpresent in our parks, our streets, and our roads. A solution is already in the action, and we can go further with it. We can improve litter conditions and participation in backbone public services with such a campaign. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay. Do I have additional, Kelsey?
My students, they get extra credit if they come and publicly comment at a.
I was going to
board, so
ask.
You did a great job.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, good afternoon. I'm going to speak fast so I can cram it all in. So I'm here on my name is Kelsey Penrose. I'm here on 2 accounts, one professionally and the second personally. Professionally, it is my belief that the passage of the Sunset Park bid item constitutes an open meeting law violation. The law is very clear about what constitutes a, quote, clear and complete agenda, and understandable, the Supreme Court ruled a public body cannot act upon a controversial issue simply because it is broadly related to a generic agenda category such as a consent renovation bid. Understandable, a higher degree of specificity is needed when the subject to be debated is of special or significant interest to the public. Because the removal of trees, especially on the west side and especially at a park known for its shade trees, is of significant public concern, which both staff and the board are aware of, the law requires that, the law requires that the tree removal be included in the project plan on the agenda, not buried as a line item in fine print on the supplemental bid tabulation. Acting in my professional capacity, I must file an open meeting law violation to the AG's office, and if his office finds a violation took place, this will have to come back anyway. And if the trees have been removed under action taken illegally, the city will open itself to be sued by any citizen who feels their rights were violated by not having proper notice to provide their voice on the matter. Please consider voiding the decision and bringing it back after the public has the opportunity to weigh in. Sweet. Okay. In my personal capacity, I'll ask, how many trees must be removed due to power lines? The tree beneath the power line at Sunset is definitely a nuisance. I 100% agree. but it is also incredibly healthy and it is not destroying road infrastructure. The pine tree being removed is also very healthy and it is nowhere near the power line or the roadway. I didn't come this morning to public comment because I went to the park to make sure this was all accurate. There's no justification for the removal of the pine tree in particular. The third tree slated for removal, I'm told, is unhealthy, but where's the arborist report that is supporting this? Simply being close to another tree doesn't necessarily mean that a tree is unhealthy. We're supposed to be a tree city, which means that we need to be stewards, especially in the fastest warming region in the country. This park is of particular importance to families with young children who appreciate its non-stimulating, calm, and toddler-friendly environment. The playground choices will change the nature of the park, and with the removal of shade, you will lose the very demographic this park is meant to be dedicated towards. Why not ask the public for their input? If I have time, I do. Please reconsider allowing rubberized mats in our playgrounds. They trap heat, disintegrate after a few years, and they actually harm children long-term by not allowing children the opportunity to learn how to fall properly. The city will have to adhere to PFAS testing regulations in just a few years, and adding PFAS, which is the forever chemical, contaminated surface like artificial turf and rubberized materials is only going to harm the city by pumping PFAS into our water supply year after year. Thank you for your time. Oh my God, I went way faster than I thought that I needed to. Thank you, I very much appreciate it.
Thank you. Do I have any further? Okay. Mr. French.
Great way to sit down and say ditto, ditto, ditto. Thank you. And I'm going to start with what was written in that sunset contract. Playground represents one of the most requested recreational amendment from the structure. More than 25 years old. It's a playground Okay, I'm sorry. Let's just start with playground represents one of the most requested and such, but it also adds the greatest potential for litigation. She just brought up several reasons that litigation might come up other than what I see as far as the physical attributes in the sense of playground equipment and such like that. But I think that the same sentence could be used in any place that artificial turf is. So I'm suggesting that litigation is a possibility in those cases if not completely reviewed and posted properly. So I'm supporting that. The next thing I'd like to bring up is that public comment and open meeting law reviews should be made by all of the individuals that are taking on new committees and authorities. They've got several different new bays on it, and I don't know how the ruling is. I know District Attorney Hugh had a wonderful program on a video. It was very to the point, very precise and very appreciated. It was helpful, and I would like to have everybody have an opportunity to review that and require it somehow be reviewed. I also want to bring up grants. I'd like in grants, because you write them before some materials change and situations may change, and to be able to make adjustments or adaptations or amendments is important. When we're talking about asphalt, specifically for my case in this particular situation, materials are coming up that are much better or water permeant, and we're not giving ourselves a chance with this grant that we have to make those adjustments to put out that artificial turf may not be the best choice. We have other options, and I hate to think that we're held into a grant because of the way it's written, specific material. If it's not available, or if it's found to be unsafe, or it costs too much, we should be able to make those adjustments after the grant's already in, and I thought that was available, but I'd been told otherwise. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have any other public comment? Ms. Orloff?
Good morning or good afternoon. I'm not sure where we are. My name's Robin Orloff, citizen of Carson City. And I'd like to discuss a recent site visit that I took our city manager to Prison Hill, along with Greg and Lindsay. And I want it known for the public record, this was only the second site visit that I've done with staff One was done in January of 2020, and this was done in February of 26. I showed them 3 features I feel are a violation of natural resource protection beyond the balance of protection of natural resources and protection of the recreational opportunity. These 3 features are not unique riding features or necessary for connectivity. I feel like I have standing because I've taken boots on the ground, eyes and boots on the ground, comparative studies, field studies of Sierra Nevada and Great Basin at the San Francisco State University. And we compared Great Basin and Sierra, and water was a huge issue. I'm also a walker and dirt biker on the hill, and I commend open space. It's an awesome project. I love it. But the three features that I've been advocating for, I feel are going to be destroyed. And I was told that my concerns would have to wait until the next master plan. And that's going to be, 2 or 3 years out? And I feel that by then these areas will be destroyed. Case in point, past history, I brought up one wash in 2020 that I felt was being destroyed, and I was told by the then chairman of OSAC that I had to wait until the project was completed and then come back and see if there was still damage. And sure enough, there was dramatic damage in that whole lower wash. The confluence of Headlight and Death Wall were destroyed. Finally, it was changed from 4-wheel traffic to single two-wheel dirt bike traffic. But meanwhile, the wash was destroyed. The roots were pulled up. The banks and the slopes were ruined. So finally, I went above open space and I found a department in the city who I believe was responsible, went on a site visit with me and determined that it was indeed a violation, and they probably CCMC violation, and the wash was closed and 3 rock dams were mandated or constructed to be put in there. So in this case, the 3 features I'm talking about now will probably be similarly destroyed beyond repair. And I really think that we have a responsibility not to wait for the Board of Supervisors to approve another master plan. Obviously, open space is out there actively addressing any changes and trespasses and changing trails as they feel is appropriate per use and per rider use and per use of the property. So I'd like it to be reconsidered if possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have anyone else? Okay, then we're going to close the public comment period. We will have a closed meeting with our council, but if there's nothing else, we'll be adjourned as the Board of Supervisors, and we'll just be 1 minute while the people recess out, and we'll